Two. Toot two. Hello and welcome to Total Football Live. And I'm back. It's been a bit of a week. And it's been a bit of a week for Liverpool. They're losing 3-2. What is this madness? They were 1-0 up, 2-1 up, and now they're 3-2 down. Thanks to I just don't know who it was who scored. To be fair, who was the goal scorer? I'm not sure, but they're 3-2 up. I think it was Deco Reed who scored the third goal for Fulham, and it's. I just thought we'd just come online just a little bit early, just to kind of talk a little bit about the games that kicked off at 2 o'clock today, and then the games later are going to be happening. Obviously, the game between City and Spurs, which is the game we'll be watching later, which hopefully will be just as entertaining as the games we've had this afternoon, which have been really, really good. And I'll spend a bit of time talking about yesterday's games as well. Arsenal playing. Who else played yesterday? Man United lost to Newcastle. Oh, what a great chance for West Ham as well, as the header was on target, but it just. I've got the reason why I've got my headphones on is because I've got the commentary for the Liverpool game in my ears, just to kind of keep you guys updated on what's going on with that. But yeah, what a weekend. Liverpool losing, of course, leaves them in a very precarious place in the table. They're on 28 points. Amazingly, Villa are also losing as well, away to Bournemouth, which does mean that it kind of is looking like after this weekend, another chance for Liverpool as well. As I was listening there, and it's Salah, and it was saved by Leno. Um, yeah, Villa losing, Liverpool losing kind of leaves City and Arsenal, if City win today, clear at the top, which seems to be a very similar story to what happened last season. Whether Arsenal necessarily have the minerals to be able to keep it up for the whole season, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the other thing that happened today as well was the FA Cup third round draw, and of course, Arsenal play against possibly one of the best teams in the country in the third round of the FA Cup. The second time in 2 years they've played. At least this time it's at home, but we're playing Liverpool at home. We played City at home, away from home last season in the FA Cup. We lost the first game. It would be nice just to be given a couple of easier games, just so we can kind of play a few youngsters, maybe play a few squad players, and bed our way into this tournament. Obviously, at home, I think generally speaking, if you can draw home ties, it makes games a lot easier. So much easier. But yeah, look at that then. Liverpool, Arsenal obviously top after the winning against Wolves yesterday. 4 points clear of City, 5 clear of Liverpool, and 5 clear of Villa, and 7 clear of Newcastle and Spurs. With that win for Newcastle as well, put them into fifth. Liverpool and Villa at the moment losing, which is big, really, really big. And we will see what happens with the rest of those games, as West Ham put a ball in the box and it's cleared. I've also got West Ham Palace here, which is 0-0. Oh, sorry, 1-1. That was a terrible challenge, that. I think it might have been Lanzini, I'm not sure. Yeah, Palace will have fought for a really good point, and it is full time 1-1. West Ham against Palace. Obviously, still listening to the Liverpool game. That is going to be a game that's going to go on quite late, because they had like 10 minutes of added time after the first half, and there'll probably be quite a lot in the second half as well. But that game finished pretty quickly. We've still got a long time to go between Chelsea and Brighton and Bournemouth Villa. So, well, I say a long time. It depends on the injury time, but it's 3-2 to Fulham, 3-1 to Chelsea. It's a very oh, Liverpool have scored. Endo. Endo has scored for Liverpool. Wow. There you go. I don't think Liverpool lose at home very often, so like to expect them to be losing this game is a great goal, though. Apparently, and Nunez finds Salah, and then Salah passes it to Endo, who does really well, and it's 3-3. Big point for Liverpool. It's a big goal for Liverpool, but they need to win tonight. They need to win, really. Oh, Brighton have got a second. And 8 minutes of added time to play. Chelsea 3-2 up against Brighton. Oh, Villa have equalised as well. Just as I was coming on, I was saying that there might be a really good weekend for Arsenal, and these goals are going in. It's typical. Bournemouth. That's 4-3 to Liverpool now. Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. That's crazy. Alexander-Arnold scored twice. Oh, scored twice in this game. He's just scored again. This is, oh dear. I tell you, I've just seen the Edouard goal as well for Palace, and West Ham were just giving the ball away here. Mavropanos with a terrible pass and has given it straight to Edouard, who dribbles at the players and then kind of clips it into the far post with his left foot. Fulham have just thrown it away. And it's crazy as well because Arsenal obviously drew at home to Fulham. And this kind of proves that Fulham are a decent team. Fulham are a very, very difficult team to play against. Um, oh, the free kicks are Leno own goal. Oh, there you go. So it's only Alexander Arnold's first goal. Not bad though. Think think the goal has been confirmed. It is 4-3 to Liverpool. Wow, this like in about 5 minutes, it's gone from looking like a great weekend for Arsenal to pretty average. But to be fair, for Arsenal, they just have to win. They just have to win, and it'll be helpful, I think, if we can go to Anfield with a bit of a cushion over Liverpool, because Anfield historically for Arsenal has been very, very difficult to win at. Very, very difficult. So I don't know. I think it'll be quite tricky for Liverpool to, for Arsenal to go there and get anything. Last season, we dominated them, probably should have won, ended up actually having a terrible last 10, 15 minutes and probably should have lost. So that's kind of how this goes sometimes with these games. But I feel for Fulham here. I really feel for Fulham. They really should be. They should be 4-3 up. They should be winning. But it's like going 3-2 up has just spurred Liverpool on into winning this game. Absolutely ridiculous. Well, they're showing the games between City and Spurs over the years. Now, this is the interesting thing about talking about. I might just move on and talk about the City Spurs game. To be fair, because it's not like Villa drawing is okay, but it's Liverpool having a chance to lose and ended up winning the game has been ridiculous. So there you go. City have historically, over the last few years, had a really tough time against Spurs. But that I think is mainly because of the type of manager and the type of play that they have, where they'll play very attacking. Um, they'll play really attacking and um, uh, no, sorry, Spurs won't play attacking. Spurs would play the defensive play. I don't know what I'm talking about, to be fair. Still all over the place after that Liverpool 2 goals. The 2 goals, the few games that City have played against Spurs, Spurs have just played a low block and hit on the counter, and it's been so effective. That won't happen today. That absolutely won't happen today. City are going to play against a Spurs team. They're going to go at them, and I'm concerned for Spurs because if they do that against this City team, City have got Haaland, Alvarez, Doku. I think Doku's playing. Actually, if we have a quick look at the lineups, you will see who we've got. So we've obviously got yeah, Yeah, Doku, Haaland, Foden up front. So not a massive amount of pace for Foden, but the other two definitely. So it's got to be said that they absolutely should um, kind of run past a lot of the Spurs players if they get the ball. And Spurs have pushed up with a high line. It'll be easy for City to play a ball in behind, um, especially with a team like if we look at the Spurs team, they've got Davies and Emerson, presumably at centre back, and Porro and Adogi, the two fullbacks. So it does mean that it's very, very tricky. Um, I think I don't know why they play Emerson at centre back because you imagine Haaland against those two centre backs, he's going to dominate them. He's going to absolutely dominate them. They don't really have a lot of height in the team. I think Basuma is a bit tall, but that's about it. Maybe Lo Celso is a bit tall. I think that's it. Yeah. I think this is if you're a Spurs fan, you come away from this game with a 2-0 defeat. I think you're doing all right because it could get nasty. I suppose we were saying the same kind of thing before the um before the Chelsea game against City, and in the end, actually, Chelsea traded them blow for blow, and they did really well. I think the difference here is that it's Spurs are playing away from home against City, and they are injury ravaged. It's finished 2-2 between Bournemouth and Villa, as you can see there. That's a big result that for Villa. It's got to be said. Oh, you can't see that actually. We'll just get that on there. Um, but yeah, this is a pretty tricky game for Spurs. I've got to say, and I think it's a shame actually the TV games that they've chosen for this week because like Chelsea Brighton would have been one that would have been quite a nice one. So albeit we've seen Chelsea quite a lot. I don't know why we've seen West Ham though today because West Ham have been on TV quite a lot the last few weeks. So I don't know. Bournemouth Villa would have been a nice one to see. Liverpool, Fulham, like a lot of them were good games to watch. And obviously they put the Man United Newcastle game on as well. So very, very tricky game though this is going to be for City, I think. Um, yeah. So talking about yesterday's games, of course, Arsenal beat Wolves 2-1. I wasn't able to watch the game. I was able to keep up with it vaguely. And when they went 2-0 up, I was like, right, cool. I can kick back, relax. They just need another goal, and that will probably be the game over. They never actually got that third goal, and it got a little nervy at the end when Wolves scored that first goal, but ended up getting the win. And that at this stage, I think that's kind of all you're looking for. Like thrashing teams at home, fair enough. That's kind of says a lot. But you can thrash teams at home and then not then just get collapse away from home. I'd rather Arsenal be just consistent, and that is one of the most encouraging thing about this league season so far is that Arsenal haven't really thrown in a game where they've been terrible. They I would argue the one game they lost in the league away at Newcastle, they weren't amazing, but they weren't bad. They were average, and they probably deserved to get a point out of that game if it weren't for some horrible VAR antics. So, and that game could have gone the other way. It could easily have gone 1-0 to Arsenal. So, it's apart from that, beat City. We drew against Chelsea. I think that's probably the only one where I'd say, yeah, we were a bit shocking, but we didn't. We still turned up for about 15, 20 minutes and got back to 2-2. So, again, we didn't really throw in an absolute shocker. We looked pretty good at the back, which is really, really good. It was very, very encouraging. Um, it's interesting to see this City team as well, but it seems pretty cookie cutter, I think, from Pep. I don't know. It's interesting. I remember going back through the years that teams used to change their tactics based on the teams they played against. I don't really think we're going to see a very different City performance from what we've seen before, but they'll probably beat Spurs anyway, quite easily. Another point as well. I know I'm kind of darting around all over the place, but the Liverpool game today has shown the goalkeeper's been at fault for at least 2, maybe 3 of the goals full time. Liverpool have beaten Fulham 4-3. That is, as an Arsenal fan, very disappointing. As a Liverpool fan, I'm sure you'll be absolutely overjoyed. What a result that is. But I still think Liverpool are winning these games 4-3. Fine. That's not how you win league titles. If you remember the Liverpool team way back in 2013-14, I think it was, and it was the Brendan Rodgers team that ripped teams apart sometimes, but they were defensively weak, and teams got at them, and they ended up drawing that game 3-3 against Crystal Palace when they needed to win by like, a lot of goals to win the title. And I think that kind of shows a little bit what's going on with this team. Um, they're not. I just don't think this. I think this Liverpool team won't win the league at all unless they shore up that defense, get that defense sorted out. Because at the moment they leak goals every game, with the exception of the Europa League game. But like they leak goals every single game, and I think if Arsenal go to Anfield and Liverpool are still playing like that, I'd back Arsenal to score at least 1, maybe 2 goals, and then we might be able to keep them out at the other end. It definitely isn't. Um, yeah, it's obviously an amazing win for Liverpool, but it's a pretty consistent theme that they play these games, they score lots of goals, but they concede a lot of goals as well. And when they come up against the teams, um, when they come against teams who will defend well against them, they're going to struggle. Goal kick to Chelsea in the final game there. It's been ooh. So the referee went to the screen. Oh, this is really interesting. Don't see this very often. The referee went to the screen in the Chelsea Brighton game, looked at a penalty decision, and didn't give a penalty to Brighton, even though the decision on the field was no penalty, and they were recommending a review. This is very weird. I follow Brighton. I'd be really annoyed as well because it's not the first time that VAR's kind of done them over. Um, but if Liverpool, as I say, if Liverpool keep defending like this, there's no way they're winning the league. I think they'll finish top 4, and that'll probably be that. They've still got a long way to go defensively, and it's difficult to pinpoint exactly why that is. I think it might be in this game. I think it was probably Kelleher playing instead of Allison. That probably didn't help. But in their system, they got a left back in Simicast who isn't amazing. They got a right back in Alexander-Arnold who can't really defend but can attack. So maybe what Liverpool need to do is move Alexander-Arnold into midfield and then play a more defensive-minded fullback there, and obviously get Andy Robertson back on the other side. I think would help. But whether I seem to remember watching Robertson this season, and he didn't look great defensively either. So maybe it is just all about we're going to score more goals than the opposition every game. Yeah, that's kind of how I was going. I think I could take these off now because I think the Chelsea Brighton game is finished. Pretty sure. I'm not sure. It's not actually come up yet, but it's not been mentioned in the thing. Oh, I didn't even know I could do that. Interesting. So apparently, I just noticed this on OBS. There's a little kind of fader here which can fade between the two things. That's really cool. Okay. Yeah, there you go. There's a little fade. Nice. um, but yeah, so it's Man City Spurs, as we know. Going to actually just fix this a little bit because it's a bit better. So yeah, City Spurs, big game. I was talking about the Arsenal Wolves game, wasn't I? So yeah, I think it's a shame that Tommy Asu went off injured as well. That definitely could potentially be a bit of a blow, especially with Anfield coming up for Arsenal. Um, and then for Wolves, I don't even think they. I think they played pretty poorly in the first half, but the second half they definitely played better. And I don't think they necessarily did themselves any. I don't think they did themselves justice in the first half at all. And Arsenal beating Wolves at home, given that Wolves have gone to United and they pretty much should have won that game and they lost. Um, I think they probably should have. What are the results? Obviously, they beat City. I think it might have been at home. So obviously, Arsenal still got that home game, that away game to play at Wolves. But the fact that they've beaten the team that have beaten City means that they're definitely doing well so far. Right, so we've got about, what is it, 10. Yeah, it's finished 3-2 to Chelsea. There you go. So looking at the table then, we'll just bring you back to the table here. And Arsenal are top. Liverpool second, 2 points behind Arsenal. City third, but they can get to second with a win against Spurs. Brighton losing to Chelsea. They are, I'm trying to think. Let's see where they are. So it looks like Chelsea are staying in 10th, but they're only 3 points behind Brighton now. West Ham obviously drawing, they're staying ninth. But it does look like Chelsea might stay up, which is good. And I think that I think at this rate, Man United are looking like a mid-table team rather than a team finishing or fighting to finish in the top four. They need to get, and given that it could potentially be top five as well, although there's a long way to go before we know that. I think Spurs need to be. Spurs really, really need a win. It might not happen in this game, but looking at their next few fixtures, if we have a look, um, between City, the next Spurs fixtures. So obviously there are midweek games this week. I'm hoping to have the Arsenal game at Luton at 8:15. We'll be watching that live. And then the Spurs game Spurs are playing West Ham at home, which will be a really interesting game. I think that's a game that Spurs could definitely win. West Ham don't look that great, but they are pretty good defensively, so that's going to be an interesting game. But it might just be a game where Spurs are just uh, suffocated. So Spurs suffocate West Ham to a point where they just can't get back at them. So looking at this game, though, obviously as an Arsenal fan, Spurs, if we've gone into games last season, especially, I think we wanted City. We wanted City to drop points against Spurs because we know we weren't going to get caught by Spurs. The season before, we actually wanted City to turn up against Spurs, and they didn't, and they lost twice. It was very, very. Was it twice or was it once? I can't remember. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure they beat them home and away. Did Spurs that season? It was in Nuno's one of Nuno's first games at Spurs, and he beat City at home, and then they beat City away from home as well that season, and that ended up being the difference between Arsenal finishing in the top four and not, um, which was obviously a real gut punch for Arsenal really that season. Um, but last season, I think Spurs went, what was it, 3-2 up, 2-1 up against City at the Etihad, and they ended up losing the game, and then they did beat City at home. Um, but it kind of didn't help at the end. I think it kind of put City off their stride, but it wasn't too long after that they ended up going on this huge winning streak. So we are really early days at the moment, but we're getting to the point where these winning streaks to win the league should be starting about, what are we on, 14 games? So I think maybe 20 games in, 20, 25 games in is when I think that's when those winning streaks need to start happening. And Arsenal will look at their last few fixtures. And actually, it's probably interesting to note this because I don't know whether this is even going to be possible. But I seem to remember looking at our run in last season, or this season, and thinking, I'm not sure This doesn't look particularly favourable. It looks pretty difficult. Um, but February, March, April, May. So we've got 4, 8, 12, 15 games. That does more or less go from match week 22. So Liverpool at home, West Ham away, Burnley away, Newcastle at home, Sheffield United away, Brentford at home, Chelsea at home, City away. That's in March. April, Luton at home, Brighton away, um, Villa at home, Wolves away, and we finish with Bournemouth at home, Man United away, and Everton at home. Crazy that we're not going to play Man United again until May, which that could be a completely different Man United team that we play then compared to what if we were to play them now. I think we'd probably win quite easily. Yeah, so it's not an easy. Well, I think we've just got like a big concertina of games in March and April, starting from Chelsea at home, City away. Well, I say that. Yeah, Brighton at home. Obviously, the North London derby, 27th of April. That happens 4 games from the end of the season as well, which could be quite big for Arsenal. That our run in is quite difficult because we've got Spurs away, Bournemouth at home, Man United away, Everton at home. That Everton at home will probably almost certainly be a win because the historically, unless it's got something on it, we're probably going to win that game. So yeah, tricky, but not too bad. What is happening in the game? We've got 15 minutes before kickoff. Everything is very, very cold. It's actually snowing where I am right now, which is really cool. But it's obviously not amazing for people driving and all that kind of thing. So we will have to wait and see. I mean, I might not even have to go to work tomorrow. We'll see. It might be snowed off. I doubt it. But yeah, it's quite a tricky run-in. It's a very, very tricky run-in. At Liverpool, Liverpool with that win have got themselves to 31 points, and their next few games are quite tricky. Well, I say tricky. They've got Sheffield United away from home, which they should win. Hey, Jollyfish, welcome to the stream. It's not sticking around you. Okay, fair enough. I just had to pop outside and noticed that it was snowing. So yeah, there you go. It's and then Palace away to yeah, Villa are fourth. Villa have been probably definitely right up there as one of the best teams in the league this season. Absolutely. They've recruited really well. They've brought in, I think, Musa Diaby is a really big addition to the team, and I'm not sure who else. I'm trying to think who else they've got have added into their team. If I just have a quick look at their team that played today, obviously Ollie Watkins has played pretty well. My question about Villa has been defensively. There's been several games I've watched, well, not several, but at least 2 or 3 games I've watched for them this season, where Villa have been defensively very suspect. And they've got Pau Torres, but he wasn't actually originally in the team. I think they had another centre back who's now forgotten, who is currently injured. So Pau Torres has stepped in, actually done pretty well, but I don't think their team is really set up very well defensively, especially playing a high line. They do struggle with the athleticism of their midfield to put the pressure on the front line to be able to stop the ball from going in behind with their high line. So that makes it very difficult. Yeah, and Luton are doing very, very well. Luton are up there. Luton's next game is at home to Arsenal, which is going to be a tricky game for Arsenal. I'd expect us to win. I think defensively Luton aren't great, and going forward, it was crazy that I think going forward actually they're more of a threat than they are defensively, because against Liverpool I seem to remember watching them sit deep and then try and hit them on the counter attack, and did really, really well. Arsenal might have to grind out a 1-0, but if we get a goal early on and change the game state quickly, we'll probably end up winning that game quite comfortably. Um, but yeah, I mean, if we look at the stats of that Bournemouth Villa game, this is the kind of game I think the Villa struggle with, because they're a team that um, like to play against a team that sits back. But I don't think Bournemouth did that at all. They played very aggressively. Had 7 shots on target in the game, even though they only had 37.4% possession. And what was it? 10, 17, 26. Wow. They've done really, really well. Done very, very well at Bournemouth. And Villa, I think Villa's overall record, if you look at their games this season as well, which I'm just going to bring up their fixtures. I might as well take this off, actually. I don't need this on anymore. Oh. If you ever had headphones on for a really long amount of time, you get ear fatigue, which is not great at all. It's quite painful after a while. Let's have a look at the fixtures, or the scores from Villa. So we started off, they beat Burnley away, then they beat Everton at home, was pretty straightforward. Then they lost 5-1 to Newcastle. And this is the thing, I think eventually when it all shakes out, I don't think the Villa would make the top 4. I think Villa would get overtaken by Newcastle. Don't know who else is actually down there, to be fair. Who else is down there right now? We've got Spurs, maybe, if they get enough of their players back. Man United, definitely not. And I think everyone below them isn't going to catch them. So I think it's basically between Villa and Newcastle for that 4th spot at the moment. Unless Spurs can pull off a surprise today, but I don't think that will happen. They've beaten Brighton at home 6-1, but then they lost at home to Everton in the Carabao Cup. Then they beat Chelsea away, which is a difficult result to get. It's very tricky. But then I'm not going to count the Europa Conference League because it's not worth including. They beat Palace at home. They lost to Liverpool away from home pretty convincingly, 3-0, which I actually think that game they didn't turn up. They really didn't turn up. They were shocking. And played a high line against Liverpool as well, which is just suicide. Especially if you don't have a good enough team going forward to put pressure on Liverpool, because they love to put pressure on you as much as you can, and you've got to try and keep the ball as it happens. Villa then beat Luton 3-1 at home, then they beat West Ham 4-1 at home, then they drew away at Wolves, then they beat Spurs away from home, beat Fulham at home, then lost away at Nottingham Forest, which is a game I watched. That's the game that we watched on the stream, and goodness me, Villa were shocking that day. They really weren't very good. And then today they drew away. So I think that their away form is not good. And that, I think, is probably something they're going to have to address going forward. Because, yeah, if they don't address that, I think they're probably not going to finish in the top 4. They're going to need to get some more consistency away from home. But yeah, this was the Sky Sports are showing the highlights of the 4-2 win for City at home. But the last 7 results against Spurs, City have lost 5 of them. In the Premier League, they've lost 5 of them and only won 2, and both of those wins have come at home. So yeah, and if you look at those, like, I think Spurs have as I say, if you missed me saying it earlier, historically they have struggled. Have City playing against this Spurs team, because Spurs like to play a defensive block and then hit them on the counter with runs in behind. That'll definitely make it very, very tricky for this. Well, it has made it tricky for City in the past, but right now, the way that Spurs play is completely different to how they played for about 4 years, since probably pre-pandemic, I'd say. So about 2019 was the last time that they played this kind of attacking football. And back then, well, under Pochettino, Spurs had the odd result against City, memorably beat them in the Champions League. But they aren't. They haven't really done enough against City playing the attacking football. But as soon as they went defensive, it made it so much easier against that City team. So we'll see. Liverpool beating Fulham 4-3, as I said, if you missed that earlier, they were 3-2 down, and then Liverpool popped up with 2 goals right at the end, which is a bit of a sickener, gotta say. Bit annoying as an Arsenal fan that that happened, because obviously we drew at home to Fulham, and that'll technically be 2 points gained for Liverpool in the relative results. But it's a good win. But I think, as I said before, for Liverpool shouldn't be conceding 3 goals at home. I think if you like, yes, they can score loads at home, but I think if you're conceding 3 goals at home, you've got to question whether you're going to be able. And it's bear in mind, this isn't the first time. Let's just to kind of back this up, because this is more of a feeling I've got rather than necessarily something that's a guarantee. But their goals conceded will be high. I think how many clean sheets have they even had? So they've conceded 1, 2. I should just look at the league, shouldn't I? Is there a league? No, there isn't. No. Okay, there's let's look at the table here. Is there a way? There is. Liverpool have conceded 14, which is actually it's nowhere near as good as Arsenal, obviously. But it's only 1 more than City. City have a game to play, but it's the same as Newcastle, and it is up there with some of the best defensive records. So from those kind of pure stats, it's quite good. But having said that, I think if you looked at their expected goals against, I think it would probably be higher than the 14 goals that they've conceded for this season. They've lost 2 goals at Spurs. They lost a goal. I mean, remember, this is the thing, right? How many clean sheets have they even had? 1 in those first 7 games. I'm talking all competitions here, so let's just keep it to Premier League for now, because I think that's probably the best way of doing it. 2, 3, no, 3, 4 clean sheets, and a lot of them have happened at home as well. A lot of them have happened at home, which is kind of what you'd expect. Like, I'm not going to hold them against. In fact, when was the last time they kept a clean sheet away from home? Have they actually done it this season? They have not. Okay, so that is a problem for Liverpool. If you don't keep clean sheets away from home, I think you are struggling, and you're forcing yourself to have to score multiple goals to be able to win games away from home, and sometimes that's just not possible. Liverpool's next game is away at Sheffield United. You'd expect them to get their first clean sheet there, but you never know. Also, not keeping a clean sheet allows the opposition to potentially win a game 1-0. They shouldn't be winning 1-0. A la Arsenal at Newcastle, to be fair. Although I think we should have kept a clean sheet in that game. And then they've got Crystal Palace away from home as well next Saturday, which is a game that we should be able to stream live and watch along as well. And then Liverpool Man United on the 17th, and then Liverpool Arsenal afterwards. So it's going to be interesting to see if Liverpool can get that clean sheet. I'm not convinced. I'm just not convinced by their defense, as I never really have been, for at least 3 years since they won the league in 2019-20. I think their defense has been suspect, to say the least. And they've had to kind of win games by scoring more goals than the opposition, which is how you win games, but rather than keeping clean sheets. If you compare it to Arsenal, I think this is a good comparison, because I think you could argue that some people have argued that Arsenal and Liverpool are kind of on an even keel when it comes to challenging City. I don't agree with that, because Arsenal's record this season kind of outshines Liverpool's to a much higher extent, I believe. So let's count the clean sheets. 1. That's already an away clean sheet in a second game of the season, by the way, as well. Oh, second game of the season, an away clean sheet. Weirdly, Arsenal can't clean sheets at home. For some reason, not quite sure why. We're really good at keeping clean sheets away from home. 2, 3 away from home. These are all away. That's 3 away clean sheets, none at home yet. There's one, 4, 5. I'm only in October, by the way. 6. Uh, and it would have been 7 yesterday if we hadn't given away the ball. So six clean sheets. Only one of them at home. But the fact, I don't think Arsenal, if you want it to go one way, you'd prefer to concede less goals away from home because it allows you to control the game. And I think that's a really, really important thing to do. It's a really important thing to be able to control games away from home. You need to not concede goals. If you concede a goal, their crowd will get up, they'll get at it, and you encourage their team to play more aggressively. I mean, if you concede a goal at Liverpool, all you need to do is watch what happened when Arsenal conceded the first goal against Liverpool last season at Anfield, and it transformed the game. And all of a sudden, Liverpool were all at Arsenal. Yeah, the game is almost kicked off. We'll get there in a second. But yeah, it transforms the game. So keeping clean sheets away from home is probably better than keeping them at home. And Arsenal can guarantee they're going to score goals at home, as Liverpool would as well. That's going to be I think that's going to be the litmus test for Liverpool into winning the title this year. Can they keep clean sheets away from home? If they can, I think they could win the league. If they go on a run of not conceding goals away from home, that would be amazing. But I just don't see it happening. Jollyfish asks, what's the difference between home and away for players? I would say for players, it's a lot of it's about familiarity. So if you're playing in the same place every week, geographically, so you're playing in the same stadium every week, you kind of know like where the lines are on the pitch. This sounds really silly. The game's kicked off, by the way, so I'm just going to talk about this while the game's going on. Um, the game will feel familiar to you because the stadium is the same. So there's a lot of things that are similar. People used to talk about Highbury, Arsenal's old stadium, and that stadium used to have like pillars in certain points of the pitch. So or the stands even, sorry. And the players would think, if I'm in this place level with that pillar, I know where I am on the pitch, and it makes my positioning easier. Defenders would use sometimes things that aren't actually part of the pitch to be able to define where to hold their line, or where to stand on the pitch. It's a lot of familiar things like that. A lot of the build up to games is easier because you're not having to travel loads. You're just having to kind of play. You're just having to kind of take a small bus, probably from your training grounds or from your home to the stadium. Um, yeah, and there's a lot. Whereas playing away from home, the home team can make the away team feel uncomfortable in many different ways, including changing the like just dressing rooms and that kind of thing, which is not necessarily um, what I'd call easy, I think. Let's see if I can find this. I can't find the stats for this. That's interesting. Yeah, it's not necessarily easy. So if an away team goes to, say, like an Arsenal or a Man City, go to Luton, the away dressing room is going to be completely different to what they used to. Here's Doku, just trying to play the ball in the box, but it's knocked out of play. Yeah, so it'll be completely not what they're used to. Like the dressing rooms won't be up to the standard that City are used to from cleanliness, from space. It'll be very cramped. You'll be able to hear everything that goes in the stadium. So if there are like chanting and shouting and that kind of thing in the stadium, you'll hear it. But it'll be usually kind of, and the other thing as well is the amount of abuse that you get. That's a corner into the box. That's not well defended by Vicario in the end. I think they've given a free kick to Vicario there. And the Spurs get away with that one. But yeah, there are big differences between playing at home and all. And if you want evidence of this, all you have to do is look at the average results of home teams compared to away teams, and a lot of it is to do with the crowd. Because if you compared it to when we were in COVID and there were no fans in the stadium, teams used to lose a lot of games at home compared to what they normally would. I remember Arsenal lost like it was more than that. It was like 8 or 9 of their home games in one season, which was absolutely, yeah, it was shocking. I remember that season was really, really bad. But I think for us fans, if we were to ever have a situation like that again in the future, I think we'd probably go with a bit more of a realistic um, expectation, because they're not. Yeah, the teams just don't play as well at home without fans, and the fans are the things are the energy that's transmitted onto the pitch, and it's usually in favour of the home team. So yeah, that's hopefully that answers your question, Jellyfish. I think it's a big yeah. That's another corner for City, but it's just about cleared. Don't get why. I'm guessing that Hill's playing because he's a technically able player and he's probably the last one on the list. Um, I don't think Brennan Johnson's playing. Is Brennan Johnson playing, or is he injured? Not sure. Um, have all the fans on a Zoom call. The broadcast and the logics are extreme. So Jellyfish says, have all the fans on a Zoom call with that broadcast on the electronic board by the stands. That actually did happen over COVID. People did do that. Obviously, you couldn't transmit like loads of people's microphones blaring out of the stadium. Like, for one thing, well, it's a nice little ball into Foden, but it's well tackled. For one thing, I think from a what would you call it? Uh, a safety point of view, I think if something went wrong with the microphone and it was blaring out of the loudspeakers in a stadium, I think there would be concerns. Oh dear, Vicario playing the ball out from the back. That wasn't bad. The dog eat, but Foden nicks it back for City. We've got a chance here. City, Spurs are playing very recklessly here. I've got to say, that's a nice shot from Doku, and Vicario just about clears it. That's gone out for a corner, hasn't it? Yep, it has. Spurs were trying to play out from the back there, and they got to a certain point and they couldn't go any further, and then just lost the ball. And because their players weren't in the ideal defensive position, it was pandemonium at the back there. There was like 4 or 5 players all in a tiny block by the end of it, which Doku got round easily and could have scored. But yeah, so that was done. Oh, that's another. These corners have been just directed straight at Vicario. But here's Spurs on the break, played in behind. I don't think it's going to get there. Although Doku's been beaten here, and it's Son. And he's got Brennan Johnson in the middle, but Son's going to go on and score for Spurs. What a start to this game. I'm coughing because I'm in shock. What's going on? Spurs have scored. It's 1-0. After everything that I've said, I remember this. This is like deja vu. I was saying the same thing when City were playing against Chelsea, and City ended up drawing that game 4-4. But the first goal for Chelsea, I was like, where has this come from? But it's just on the break. Son beats Doku, and he just goes by himself. And it's not a good save by is it Edison in goal? I think it is Edison in goal, isn't it? Yeah. It's a terrible save by Edison. And it's played straight in. And I tell you what a lovely bit of play from Son. And it might even be an Edison own goal. Terrible news for anyone who's got him in their fantasy team. But what a start for Spurs. What a start. But they had Doku at the back there defending, and he just couldn't. Son somehow outdid him. That's his 9th Premier League goal this season as well. It must be top scorer, or at least close. Well, I suppose Haaland would probably be up there, but wow, what a start! Again, this is all about like Spurs hitting City on the break. Here's a ball into Bernardo Silva, but he's not got that one. A doggy should clear it. Spurs hitting City on the break has caused City problems so often in the last few years, and they did it again there. Is that going to be a free kick here to City? They're very aggressive in the challenge. I think they've been very fortunate with a couple of the corners that City have put in. But apart from that, wow. I mean, that's their first chance. It's their first chance, but it's the quality of the chance, you see. That's the thing. You can make your first chance all you like, but if your chance is easier to score than the 10 chances that the opponents have had, you might back yourself to go on and win that game. And they are now winning 1-0. There's a free kick to City on the right hand side of the box. Bernardo Silva fakes and it's put in, and Haaland, and it's flicked in and it's deflected in, and it's 1-1 already. Oh dear. Oh dear, Spurs. Now there's a phrase called being Spursy, which I think is pretty clear. Is it? Wait, what's happened here? I don't know. Here's a goal. Here's a goal. Son's looking bereft. He can't believe that this has gone in. It is onside because there's a defender at the back who's keeping him onside. It's deflected in off of a Spurs player. I think it might be an own goal, this. It's gone. There's a Haaland flick, and it goes in off Son. It's a Son own goal. Oh, my days. Son scored 2 goals, but not both of them have been on for his team. Haaland gets the flick on. It gets past the doggy. Oh, no, Basuma. And then Son just flicks it in with his thigh. It's 1-1. Oh, you can't believe it, man. You can't believe it. That's shocking. As an Arsenal fan, it's difficult for me to know exactly what the best result is for me. I don't know what the best result could be. Has the referee given the goal here? I think they're checking for. No, they're not. It is a goal. It is a goal. Yeah, there's a word which I think is very applicable to this. Oh, there could be in again here. He's almost got the ball in there, and now Kulusevski's running away, and he could play the ball into Son. He's got Son Son through the middle. Hill on the left hand side. He's played it. He hasn't played. Now he has. Took a long time to get the ball out of his feet there. Back out to Kulusevski, and he gets the throw. There's a word called Spursy, which you may not know what it means. It basically means to have an advantage and to throw it away. And that's exactly what Spurs have done here. They've gone 1-0 up, and kind of like the Chelsea game and kind of like the Spurs Chelsea game. It's like the games between these clubs are just crazy. Are just absolutely crazy. And it reminds me a bit of Arsenal actually playing against Spurs, and we went 2-1 up, and then we just gave the ball away to Spurs, and they knocked away and scored. But that was with a Spurs team that was nowhere near this good. Son's in again here. Oh no, well played, Akanji. That's the difference between playing with Akanji at the back and having Doku running against Son, because he knows what he's doing. 10 minutes gone, and it's 1-1 already. And based on how we've seen these first 10 minutes, I'm expecting a lot of goals, I think. Or, well, no, I think what will probably happen is City they might take a step back, possibly, and just try and control this game, because they can't. If there's one thing that Pep absolutely hates, it's an end-to-end game. He does not like that, because there's so little control in that. And it's how they lost against Spurs before. Whereas this City team they've got a lot of players who are great in possession. And look at this Spurs backline; they're right on the halfway line. They're pressing City forward, pressing City back into their back line. But now it's into Guardiola on the left hand side. If they had a player better than Guardiola in that left hand side position on the ball, they'd be amazing. Here's Foden on the right. The penalty area is going to go for the shot. That's flicked. Oh my days, where's that gone? Gone back to Bernardo Silva, and Vicario in the end flaps at it and just about gets it. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's Foden on the right hand side of the penalty area. It takes the shot. It's not going in, but it comes off the defender, flicks off of Haaland, and then eventually gets to Bernardo Silva, tries to flick it over the goalkeeper. Oh, he's played it in. Here's Haaland. Oh, how's he missed? How's he missed? It's an open goal. That should have been 2-1 to City, but it's again Spurs trying to play out from the back, and he plays it straight to Bernardo Silva, who sets up Haaland. And oh no, Bernardo Silva gets the touch. Is it Alvarez? I think he gets the touch. Bernardo Silva plays in Haaland, and he's there on his left foot. You'd think, oh, this has got to be a goal. Surely it's not. He's missed it. Crazy. This is I don't know if I'm going to have a voice left by the end of this game. We've only had 12 minutes. I'm already coughing quite a lot. End to end is pick up football territory, says Jollyfish. Yeah, I kind of agree. It's not the kind of thing that It's not the kind of thing that Pep would like. And to be honest, I'm not even sure that Ange likes it either, but I think he realizes that's the only way he's going to win this game. I don't think he's going to win by getting everyone to sit back because it goes against everything that he believes as a manager, which is fine. But I think the Spurs just didn't take advantage of the game state they were in. They absolutely should have just taken a step back or two when they went 1-0 up. They should have done, but somehow they've they just given that goal away straight away. And I think it's fair to say City will probably make more chances than Spurs will because they have better players playing out from the back. They'll be able to generate more control in possession, and their domination in set pieces will be really, really big. They've got a lot of very, very tall players, very strong players. And Haaland's almost lost the ball there, but he has actually got it back. He's tried to run through, and that's going to be a. Is it? No, ref saying he's got the ball. That's good. That was a challenge from Bernardo Silva. That's meaty. It's come straight into. I'm not sure who that was. Pedro Porro, was it? I don't even know. But yeah, he didn't like that one at all. It is. It's fun to watch, though. Says Jollyfish. Yeah, it's absolutely fun to watch. Um, as someone who's talking about the game, it's nice to see that. Although you can talk about tactics and that kind of thing, this is just a. It feels like a barnstorming game. That's a ball into Haaland. Oh, and the touch lets him down. It lets him go past him. He's going to have to set someone else up. And then it's gone back to Walker on the right hand side. Now Foden. He's been pretty good so far. He's actually done pretty well, but I think he's being allowed a lot of space to maneuver. Whenever he's had the ball, it's usually been in that inside right position, which he is so good in that position. And the reason why I think he's not been so good this season is that he's not been allowed that space. Here's Doku now into Bernardo Silva. He's going to go on the outside, and it's going to be a corner to City. Wow, this is it's going at 100 miles an hour, this game. And I do think eventually what will happen is one thing that Spurs have got to remember: this game lasts for 90 minutes plus whatever 10, 15 minutes. I don't think Spurs are going to be able to last the whole 90 to 100 minutes. That's another corner cleared again and set up. Oh, they've just about kept it. Bernardo Silva still got it somehow. That's a lovely ball out to Haaland. He's fluffed that shot. Oh, it's gone out for a corner. Not bad. I think Bernardo Silva was very, very concerned about giving away a counter-attack chance there as well for Spurs. So he wanted to try and keep the ball as much as he could there. Wow. Spurs have conceded the fewest goals from corners this season. This game does not feel like it's showing a Spurs team that's good from corners. Because they look vulnerable from corners a lot in this game. That was a terrible ball in, though. Bernardo Silva. This ball should go out to Doku. No, it doesn't. It goes all the way out to... Is that Rodri? No, it's Diaz. Fighting for the ball there. He's just about kept that in, I think. Kulusevski, but he's lost it. I think it was out for a throw, was it? Yeah. Well, there's been 5 minutes and no goals since the City goal. So there you go. It's not been as bad. I'm going to see if I can change. Oh, I don't have time. Here's Doku on the left hand side, dribbling inside. Not beating his man though. It's well played by Porro. That was very well played. And then he plays the ball out of play. So not that well played. Let's see. It's not letting me do it, is it? Right. Where are the stats? There are no stats. Where are the stats? Well, that's not right. Maybe I have to change the thing then. Not sure. Oh well. Here's Doku and City just kind of keeping possession. Spurs haven't really threatened for a good 5-7 minutes now, which is a little concerning. I think if they're starting to sit back, that's a ball in behind for Haaland. He's got the ball on the right channel. That's an interesting ball. It's just about kept in, and that was an interesting tackle by I'll tell you what, Bernardo Silva was kind of reaching for that one. If he makes contact there, it's definitely a yellow card. But he doesn't in the end, and Spurs should clear the ball out. I don't want to. I don't want to kind of navigate away because I know that something's going to happen. Emerson Royale just about gets the ball away here. City have got a very high press, and Spurs are trying to play their way through it, but they're finding it very, very difficult. Whether it's just because they're leaving like 4 players. That was nice. Very nice for the Spurs player there. It's number 18. That was that Lo Celso. It was, wasn't it? Yeah. Lo Celso's done pretty well for Spurs. To be fair, done very, very well. I think I'm going to have to change this around so we have a look at the. Let's try this. Copy and paste. See. That's better. Much better. Right, there you go. So we should have the stats there. Perfect. And City, is this a Spurs corner? Spurs corner. Interesting. We're hitting 20 minutes and it's still 1-1. Obviously, a draw. It's very difficult to kind of talk about as Spurs play the ball in the box. That's just about headed away. It is. And here's Kulusevski on the edge of the penalty area. Played it inside. And then it's played out of play. It's going to be another corner. Here's Brennan Johnson is playing. So that's good for Spurs at least. I think they've got a good little balance in their team going forward. Yeah, if you look at those stats, it's not amazing reading, but Spurs have scored with their only shot, which is exactly what I was saying earlier. If you've got one shot that's an easier chance than 10 shots the opposition has, you might fancy yourself to potentially win the game. Unless you're playing Liverpool today, of course, who scored like 3 worldies. Yeah, it's very frustrating for Fulham, I think, tonight, because they probably would have wanted or expected to win the game today, going 3-2 up. That's an interesting ball. It's gone all the way to the right-hand side, and Basuma's picked it up. Pedro Porro into Kulusevski, but City will pick that up again. And this is, I think, the thing that Spurs are missing, Maddison, and they're missing Romero and Van der Ven, who have both been very good at playing the ball out from the back and been pretty calm in possession, more or less. Although I don't think Romero is as good. Or that's a lovely ball in behind, but no, not quite. Just a bit too much on that. That's the kind of thing that City need to do, is they try and get Haaland running in behind and test this Spurs backline. Because let's not get this wrong. If Spurs get a point here, even with their recent record away at City, which has been pretty good, even with that, if they get a point here, it'll be an amazing result, and it'll definitely set them up quite nicely for future games. But whether it necessarily, I don't think it'll say they're going to be title challenges. You definitely can't say that. Is Brennan Johnson out the outside? He's absolutely ruined him. Oh, and it might be it's a good block in the end. Diaz does a really good job of putting that past the post and out of play for a corner. That was a really good chance there. Brennan Johnson just absolutely ruined. Was that Guardiola on the outside? He's a player who I think is being somewhat unfairly exposed at left back by Guardiola, because I don't like, sometimes I don't like seeing centre backs playing at fullback, because they're exposed in a way they probably shouldn't be, and they're usually not fast enough. to deal with some of that. That's gone out of play in the end. They're exposed in a way that they wouldn't be if they were sat in the middle of a back four. And I just don't think Guardiola defensively is good enough. But they don't have, like, obviously City sold Arsenal Zinchenko. They don't have a player in that position who can really do a good enough job. I don't think. That's a lovely touch from Bernardo Silva. Really nice. Unlucky to lose the ball there in the end. Yeah, I mean, they had Laporte, who I remember used to play there. They did. I remember once that last season at the Emirates, Guardiola tried. Not Guardiola, sorry, tried Bernardo Silva at left back, he's a midfielder, he's an attacking midfielder. It was just ridiculous. I mean, Saka just skinned him again and again and again. I think I think they've got a good enough balance just about against the weaker teams. Playing Guardiola at left back gives them a lot of control, but I don't think. I mean, you look at this, like, Guardiola's not really inverting at all. He's just staying at left back. Walker's staying at right back, and they're both kind of sometimes coming inside, but they're not. They're not being very adventurous on the ball because they know that, say, Spurs could potentially do quite a lot of damage. And it's leading to this situation where they're trying to play their way through this Spurs defence, who are sitting slightly deeper at the moment. Here's Doku. Going to try and go inside, but that's not a good return pass. Or saying that, he's almost lost it. Flip it, Nora. What's gone on there? At the end, Doku's pushed him. And that's good. And that's going to be a free kick to Spurs. And what's happened there? Let's just pause for a second. Yeah, so Doku pushes him, and I think Vicario does stop the corner in the end, but that was nice. Here's Walker on the right-hand side. They need to try and keep some kind of possession. That might not stay in play. That Walker has clipped it. Is just, I think it's just gone out of play. Yeah, it has. And it is somehow still 1-1. The goal fest that we were expecting after the first 10 minutes hasn't quite happened, but I do think the next goal is going to be pretty big, I think. Spurs need to try and threaten. Wait, wasn't that a goal kick? Oh dear, that was a terrible touch from Emerson Royale. He's just giving the ball away to Alvarez here. A lot of the play is happening in the Spurs third of the pitch as well, which I think if you're a Spurs fan, I'd be very concerned, because eventually City will carve out chances. If they're given time in the opposition's third, they will make chances to score. And with a player like Haaland, if they make a good enough chance for him, he'll probably score. He should have scored earlier, to be fair. He had the open goal, which he missed. It's been a bit more quiet recently. Here's Doku again. I think Doku has had a bit more of a lean spell. I remember he didn't have a good game against Arsenal, and I think he's not been as good recently. Since that amazing game against Bournemouth when they won 5-0, I think he's really struggled. Here's Foden, just kind of turning around and giving the ball back to Walker. It's a very tricky time for Doku now, because I think he's had his honeymoon period, and now I don't think he's as good. Here's Foden that's trying to drive inside, just loses it, but City get it back. Akanji back to Walker, and City have kept the ball here. Edison, he's going to look long here, I think, because I know he's not. He's played it into Bernardo Silva. Oh, that's a terrible pass, given straight to Hill. Son's in. If he gets it right, no, it's a good block again. Guardiola. Son is absolutely livid. Son is livid. He knows he should be getting the ball there. It's a terrible ball by Bernardo Silva. He just plays it. He's expecting to play it to Diaz, but it's just too short, and it goes straight to him. And I think he's he's expecting the ball a lot earlier. His Son, and he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it, and he's very annoyed. It's 5-4 on corners to City, but Spurs have kind of slowly. I say slow. They've not really had a foothold in this game, to be fair. And that's a corner. It's just flicked in, but cleared by Bernardo Silva this time. It's definitely a game that I think City are dominating, but the way that Spurs are playing, I think City could rue chances that they miss, because this game will come down to who takes the chances. And I don't think it doesn't matter how much possession City have. I think if City have 80% possession, Spurs will still make chances to win this game. Make it very, very difficult. Here's Foden. Oh, excuse me. And out. Yeah, this is what you can tell I'm yawning now because like this is City trying to control the game, and I think if they force Spurs to try and kind of press them high, that's another poor ball. What's happened there? That was very aggressive from I think it was Kulusevski, and now Spurs have won it back. Hill, but they've given it straight back to Foden, and now City could potentially break here. They have done. Doku should be getting going here. He's going. He's going. This is difficult. This is really bad. Oh, it's it's come off the angle of crossbar and post, and it's not gone in. Oh, you could tell that he was in trouble the minute Pedro Porro squared up against Doku because he didn't have any confidence. He just come inside. He was never going to get it. It comes off the post and the crossbar, bounces down, and goes out of play. It's that was a really, really good chance for City again, and that all came from Spurs pressing really high and City getting through that press. The difference is, I think City's pressing structure is making it very, very difficult for Spurs to play through. They're finding it so hard to get through the City kind of midfield, whereas I think City are finding it easy to get through the Spurs midfield. It's not very difficult to get through this press. And I think the absence of players like Maddison, you've got someone like Hill who will work hard, but I just don't think he's that defensively aware. Here's Haaland. That's well played by Emerson Royale. Who'd have thunk that Emerson Royale would end up playing at centre back for Spurs? Oh, that's a terrible ball by a doggy. Or Basuma, sorry. With his left foot. Come back to Bernardo Silva. He's played the ball out to Alvarez and now Rodri. Rodri plays it out to Doku. They definitely noticed that I think Doku against Porro is as a challenge that they could definitely win. That's a ball to the far post and just flicked away. Bernardo Silva will collect it. Bernardo Silva with the ball in. That's again cleared. That might end up going to Spurs, or it doesn't though. That's well played by Haaland. It's gone straight to Doku. Doku against Porro again. Doku. Oh my days, this is easy. It's too easy. It's Foden, and it's 2-1 to City. That was so easy for City. So easy. Doku squares up the defender again, but this time instead of going for the shot, he picks out a lovely pass. I don't remember who it was, but he played. I think it might have been Bernardo Silva, but he plays it into Bernardo Silva. He turns, plays it into Foden, who has just the goal and 5 yards in front of him, and he places it into the bottom corner, and it's 2-1 to City. Who's this who makes the run? I think it was Bernardo Silva. I can't tell from this angle. It's a horrible angle. This stupid crane angle that they've got going above the goal. I think it's Alvarez. Yeah. Alvarez makes the run inside, past the Spurs defence, and then easy. So easy for Foden to score. And he has looked lively. Both Doku and Foden look very, very lively today. They look really, really good. And got to be said, I think City deserve that. They've been the better team, and I think after the first 10 minutes, which looked a little bit end to end, these last 20 minutes have been City grinding out a lead, and they're going again here. They took in the free kick quickly. Bernardo Silva, it's flicked over his own bar. Spurs are looking dodgy. I think Ben Davies is quite right to shout as his defence here because there's no Spurs players expecting the quick free kick. None of them are, and it's played into the box, and Haaland would have scored had they not cleared that one. He was in perfect position. 2-1 to City, and I mean, this could get worse. This could absolutely get worse. Here's the ball into the box, and the corner is cleared away. But them being able to isolate Doku and not so much Foden. I think Foden floating inside, but definitely isolating Doku against Pedro Porro is working an absolute treat for them tonight. They've done really, really well. And there's so much space on the left-hand side. Why is no one seeing that? Yes. Jollyfish says, when to get a drink and Foden scored. That's kind of what happens sometimes. And I did say that I don't really want to take my eyes off of this game because I know something will happen the minute that does happen. Thankfully, I was watching here. But it was the shot from Doku, which hits the crossbar in the post and bounces out of play. And it was ever since then, I thought, okay, right, he's definitely got this fullback on toast here, I think. And Porro is in trouble. The problem is that Spurs don't have anyone else to play in that position because Emerson Royale is playing at centre back for them. That's nice. That's really nice. It's unlucky in the end. I don't think they've got anyone else who actually plays. I think Porro was actually their first choice right back as well, so that kind of tells you where this Spurs first 11 is. As impressive a start to the season as they had, I just think that this first team, there's not a lot of depth. Rodri's been booked, which means he's missing the game against Villa. That's going to be interesting. Are they playing that at home or away? Might be away, you know. Ooh, that's interesting. That might make that game very well. Unfortunately, it's on a Wednesday night and I'm busy, so I won't be able to watch that. His oh, that's a terrible ball. He's given it straight to Haaland. He's played it into, and eventually it's found its way to Alvarez. Alvarez takes the shot. It's hit the post. Oh, this game. But it was all from Spurs' own defensive mistakes, that was. Alvarez does really well here. He goes past the defender, past Davies on his right-hand side, gets the shot away, just hits the post. And that could easily have been 3-1. It was just a giveaway in their own third as well from Spurs. They can't afford to do that. And they've done it again. They're lucky that time because it just deflects to Gil. Gil? He's Spanish, so I think he's Spanish. But they don't look confident, I've got to say. And to be fair, I sympathise with them because as an Arsenal fan, I know what this is like watching your team play it the way at the Etihad and they're winning. It's very, very difficult because the amount of pressure that you're under, you end up conceding possession and go, oh, and they've given it away here again. Has he just given it away? No, Haaland. Oh my days, he smashed it over the bar. Is he going to score today? Because that's the second time now he's missed. This wasn't a sitter. This was a more difficult chance. I think there was a player blocking there, but Spurs they're crumbling here. They've given the ball away twice in their own third of the pitch, and City should have scored 2 more goals. Nice ball in to Haaland, and I think he's leaning back here a bit. Doesn't quite get it right. He's leaning back as he takes the shot, and he's trying to curl it. I think he's trying to curl it in the corner. Spurs are trying to play the ball out from the back again. I mean, if this works, great. But so far, they don't look like they're able to do it. Doku back to Akanji, and City have complete domination in this game now. It's complete domination, and they're 2-1 up. But like, this is kind of what we were calling before the start of the game. The Spurs goal has definitely shocked me and quite a lot of people watching, but what we've seen since has definitely proven more accurate to what we were saying before. Here's Doku again against Pedro Porro. He passes it back. Gvardiol plays it back out to Doku again. He just wants to be able to isolate him. And Spurs, so I think they were a bit foolish to not double up on Doku when that was the reason why they were conceding those chances, was that they had Doku getting the ball on the left wing, and they were doubling up on Foden, but they weren't doubling up on Doku. And if you're isolating Doku against his fullback, and that's the only thing that they have to do, that's trouble. Like you're gonna be in trouble there. And like the reason that Arsenal were able to keep Doku so quiet is by doubling up, and it does force. Yes, it forces the winger to have to kind of come back and defend every time. But I think these days, when you're playing as a team at the top level, you've got to be able to defend as a team. And if your wingers don't come back and cover, you're either going to get caught in a 2v1 because the opposition fullback's going to go forward, or you're going to leave a fullback isolated against a winger who is definitely better than them and will probably beat them. And you can't afford either situation to happen. So you need to really track back as a fullback, as a winger, to help your fullback out. And it doesn't really. I think at the top level, it's more exposed. At the lower level, I think you get away with it. But you see teams like Liverpool, I think they get away with it sometimes, but it could also explain a bit. Oh, here's Son, though, running in behind. He's got Hill, who could potentially get in here. Well, that's a good challenge, that, by Diaz. Really good challenge. Got City out of trouble there. Got to be careful here, though. Son's got the ball back again. He's played the ball out to Brennan Johnson. Johnson plays it into Lo Celso, and that's cleared. Just. That was dodgy, but now here's Doku. He's got space in front of him. Haaland and Bernardo Silva in front of him as well, but I think he just wants to slow this down. I think he just wants to slow this down. He knows. I think this is the kind of thing that City don't need to have this game be end to end. They do not want it to be end to end. But I think if Spurs are going to be a serious team, here's Doku again. He's isolated his fullback again, and this time he's actually blocked it. He's done all right that time. But that's if Spurs are going to be a serious team, the wingers have got to come back and track. And that is Brennan Johnson, by the way. It's Brennan Johnson 10-1 on shots. 10-1. This is the scenario I was saying, except it's happened in the first half. And that all the shots on target have been scored. 2-1. So there you go. But yeah, Brennan Johnson not tracking back. I think it's part of the reason why City are winning this game. Here he is. He's tracking back, but he's kind of jogging. He's not really that bothered. Here we go. Here's Doku again. And it's gone back out to Guardiola. That's a lovely ball to the far post. Foden has flicked it, overhead flicked it. And in the end, it'll be cleared by Spurs, and they get a free kick in the end. And they're quite fortunate there. But Brennan Johnson is not tracking back on the fullback enough. He is covering a bit of space. I think he's aware that if he ends up being beaten on his inside, I think that makes it very difficult for anyone to defend against Doku. But at the same time, you can't leave, what was it? I think it was like 10-15 yards space between him and the fullback. You can't do that because he'll just beat the fullback and that'll be it. So we'll see. As it's good for City that they've got a player like Doku to step in. He's a new signing and he's done very, very well. He's very, very tricky on the ball. Very difficult to deal with. City. Spurs are playing the ball around. Oh, this is nice. Now Spurs could be in here. Here's Hill on the left-hand side. He's just tried to jink inside Kyle Walker. That's one matchup that I think does not go in City's Spurs' favour at all. Is Hill against Kyle Walker. Because Kyle Walker is a really good defender and Hill is just not a very good winger. But that's where you probably miss Maddison, because he's the one who probably play on that left-hand side. So, of course, Spurs are missing Richarlison as well. It's just a hoofed ball outfield. It's actually gone straight to Doku. That's a nice touch from Doku. Almost perfect. City have got numbers forward here. Doku against the fullback again by himself. Plays it in. It's not quite there, but Rodri gets it back and ends up falling over. Not quite sure why. That could be dangerous, this, for City, because Hill could be in. Hill is almost in, but Walker gets back really well. Again, the recovery speed from Walker, really impressive. I don't know how old he is. I'm pretty sure he's in his 30s. And City will try and control this. If you remember the game between Arsenal and City earlier this season at the Emirates, the reason why Arsenal were able to win that game, or they gave themselves the opportunity to, is because they had the ball deep. No, sorry. What I'm saying is Doku again. Doku again. Oh, it's well cleared. The reason what Jollyfish says 33. What do you mean 33? You need to clarify what you mean by that. Yeah, Arsenal played City and beat them 1-0. But Walker's 33, says Jollyfish. Yeah. So it's 33, and his recovery pace is absolutely insane for a 33-year-old. You think about what's his name? Like Thierry Henry more or less lost his pace by the time he reached 30. Um, but Kyle Walker is still going. Man's an absolute machine. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an athlete prolong his career, but especially one that relies on pace. Because I think if you take pace away from Kyle Walker, he probably doesn't play in this City team. Because I don't think he gives you much else other than that recovery pace. It helps. It helps City control games against teams who want to play on the counter against them. Now here's Foden on the right hand side, plays it into Bernardo Silva. Foden's a bit annoyed because he probably wants that ball back there, I think. That's nice though. Here's Doku against the fullback again. This is trouble. Oh, he's had the shot, but it's well blocked. Offside. Okay. Not quite sure what that offside was for. Is that for Doku? Really? I don't know how he managed to go offside there. But yeah, it's a very tricky. I've just noticed that my if I've had any alerts, I apologize because I haven't actually had my headphones out. There we go. I can actually now hear the alerts if they do happen. And Guardiola now plays it out, but that's nice. I can actually just check, to be fair. I haven't had any, that's fine. Okay. So yeah, Guardiola and the ball to Akanji. And now Doku's still going, and I think is given a free kick away in the end. Spurs trying to play the ball in behind, but it's not there. So it's really interesting comparing. Oh dear, that was an interesting ball for Edison. He just about kept it in, and so I think City just hoof it down the field because they knew they weren't going anywhere with that. 3 minutes of added time. City definitely. It's interesting to say like Spurs all-out attacking philosophy at work here because it doesn't. It's not really the same. I think, but I don't know that if that's necessarily because Spurs wanted it to be like that. I think it's more because City are forcing them to have to play very, very defensively. Because the way they're keeping the ball, they're playing through the Spurs press quite easily. Yeah, I think they definitely. Thank God, look at that. Walker just stood in front of the Spurs player and blocked him off. That was absolutely. I think you might call it beast mode. Is probably a way, and just goes to show how good the City team are. They're very, very good. Although that might be out of play. It's still in play. Doku still going. No. But yes, City are so good, and I think that's why a lot of people are expecting them to go on to win the league this season. But with the way that the league season has happened so far, it's got to be said that it's not quite the whole City are going to go on and win the league by Christmas, because you have got Arsenal there who have been pretty consistent. You've got Liverpool who have been pretty consistent as well, albeit in a different way to Arsenal. Liverpool have had a pretty good start to the season. Villa are right up there as well, even though they drew today. Here's Guardiola in the overlap this time. He's played it in, and now is that Alvarez? Yep. Giving it to Doku. He's got to be careful. He's in the end, he does just about give the ball away. Could have got a free kick, but it's played out by Spurs. But again, to absolutely no one. This is if Spurs end up doing that, I think Postecoglou will be very annoyed because you can't just play against this City team and just hoof it every time you get the ball. It's a ball in behind for Foden, and he just about gets it. I think Emerson Royale clears it out, and it will be a throw to Spurs. I got away with that one. It's a typical. It's obviously difficult playing against City because you're under so much pressure. The one thing you want to do is just clear the ball, clear your lines, not give away anything silly. But I think the way Spurs have played this has been quite not clever, but I think it's just the right thing that they had to do. The problem is it has its own risks, and if you give the ball away in your own third a few times, City will take advantage and probably score. The one thing that's quite surprising is that they haven't actually scored from those positions yet. And it is half time. It's 2-1 to City. Spurs on their way to their fourth defeat in a row in the Premier League. Um, well, it's not. I think Spurs can count themselves fortunate they're not more than 2-1 down. They should be more than 2-1 down. They should be 3, 4, 5-1 down. The amount of chances that City have had in this game, um, kind of ridiculous, really. Um, yeah, kind of ridiculous, but that's how it is. Let's turn you off. Right, I'm just going to put on the Be Right Back table in a second, but for now, let me just do that. Anything else I want to put on? Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, so it is 2-1 to City. And I'm just going to go and take a little comfort break for about 10 minutes, and then I'll be back after that to talk about the second half. But for now, thanks for watching, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Hello and welcome back to the stream and to Total Football Live, where today we're watching Spurs at Manchester City. And it's got to be said, um, Spurs are very fortunate not to be more than 2-1 down. I think they absolutely should be 3-4-5-1 down. The amount of chances that City have had, but it has meant that they go into the second half. What do they do? What can they change? And this is the thing. I think if we look at their bench, I'm not expecting much because they've got a lot of injuries of Spurs, but look at their bench. They've got Skip, Højbjerg, Richarlison's on the bench, Forster, and then loads of players who I don't recognise, who I'm guessing are youth players. So Valise, Austin, De Santiago, Alonso, Donley, and Dorrington. It's just like, I think the only changes they could make are defensive ones, apart from Richarlison. They could bring Richarlison on, but how does that change things? Does that maybe add um a bit of a lack of, what would you call it? Um uh does it add a lack? This might actually start playing. Hang on. That's not what I want. There you go. Does it add a lack of discipline to this Spurs team? I think Spurs. Son's really good at making those inside runs. And that's the thing. I think if he's running in behind the defense, I don't think they would have changed that. Um, so um, why would you bring on Richarlison? I don't know. I don't know. But if we look at the results today, if you missed what happened, we saw Bournemouth drew 2-2 with Villa, which is a great result for Bournemouth. Not so good for Villa, that, because that's a game away from home. I think a lot of teams are going to beat Bournemouth at their place, including Arsenal and City and Liverpool. I think they're all. I know Arsenal have already played them away. I'm not sure City and Liverpool have. But Bournemouth away, I think Newcastle lost there, so that actually could be a point gained for them, potentially. Chelsea beat Brighton 3-2. They get their first win in a little while, just to relieve a bit of pressure on Pochettino. But they seem to be able to do this, where they win the one game and then they go like 3, 4, 5 games after that and don't know. They just can't do what they need to do. So uh, it definitely makes things a little bit more awkward. I'll just do that. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, I think they've City are just very, very. Who was I talking about? Chelsea. Chelsea get the one win, and then they go like 3 or 4 games without winning, and then they get another win, and that's probably how this season's going to go. I think it's going to be a very middling season for Chelsea. I'd be very surprised if they finish any higher than 8th this year, which, given the quality that they've got in their team, is a bit surprising. But they just seem to throw in really bad performances every so often, and we've not seen them have a very good kind of consistent run of form. Brighton, I think, are suffering from. If they hadn't played a European game in midweek, I think they'd probably win this game at Chelsea. So that kind of says a lot about where Brighton are at. I don't think they necessarily wanted to hamper themselves with European football, but at the same time, they know how important it is monetarily for them to, and as a notoriety as well. Their reputation is definitely much higher, having had a time in Europe. So, um, yeah, and then Liverpool 4, Fulham 3. It's Liverpool at Anfield. They almost lost their first game at Anfield in quite a long time, but they came back. Alexander-Arnold scored an absolute perler, a free kick, which apparently was an own goal in the end. And then McAllister scored an absolute worldie from 30 yards out, and they still almost lost the game. Which I was saying earlier about this Liverpool team, saying that, to be honest, they're not the team that a lot of people think they are when it comes to challenging for the title. I don't think they're that yet. just because the defense doesn't shape up at all. As it happens, it looks like we've currently got almost a 3, possibly a 4 horse race at the top. Um, at one point, it was looking like Liverpool and Villa were both going to lose this afternoon, which would have really left City and Arsenal clear at the top. Um, but that's not how it's happened. But I do think eventually that's what's going to happen, because City and Arsenal are just going to keep winning games. And Arsenal do have, to be fair, their next few games are tricky. They've got Luton away, which they should win, but then they've got Villa. They've got Brighton and Villa. Then they've got Brighton at home and Villa away, which are going to be tricky, tricky games. Then they've got Liverpool. So yeah, I'm not expecting Arsenal to kind of run away with it. It's going to be a competitive league, but at the same time, I think they've got themselves a chance to kind of set things up. If they win those 2 games going into Liverpool, they could potentially. Well, they will be top, obviously, if they win those games. And City, of course, going away to the Club World Cup will mean they don't play the game against Brentford they were supposed to play, which means Arsenal could potentially go further clear of them, and Liverpool too, as well. West Ham drew against Palace. West Ham are a little bit. I was watching a bit of this game and they didn't look particularly at it, but then they never really do. They always tend to look a little bit almost underwhelming at times, and the goal that they conceded as well was just shocking. Mavropanos gives the ball away inside his own half, and then the Palace striker just kind of runs away with the ball and gets and takes the shot with his left foot and scores. It wasn't an especially good attack, but they just made it all happen by themselves. So there you go. Newcastle are 5th now after beating United yesterday, and with Spurs losing, that means that they will stay 6th. Spurs are still, I think they're still on target to get European football for next season, but I think given the amount of players they're missing, and they're going to keep missing, I think they're missing Van der Ven for an extended period of time. They're missing Madison for an extended period of time. And obviously over Christmas, if you're not aware of this, the way that the fixtures work, um, in the over a season, looks like Højbjerg's coming on for Spurs, I think. Um, a lot of games happen between kind of December now right through to end of January. If you miss players around this time of year, you're missing a really big chunk of the Premier League season. I think there's something like 10, 10 plus games that happen between now and January, the end of January. So it's, yeah, it does make losing out on Madison, Van der Ven. Feel like there's another defender they're missing as well, but yeah, they're going to struggle, I think. It looks like we are almost ready to start the second half. Spurs kicking off from left to right. And let me just get the stats back up here for you. Well, Spurs have got 45 minutes to try. Oh, they've given the ball away straight away. And now Haaland, and it's a chance, a great shot, great save. I think it was Bernardo Silva with his left foot, tried to curl it around Vicario, but Vicario gave the ball away. What, we were 10 seconds in, he just gives the ball away to Bernardo Silva, plays it into Haaland. Bernardo Silva takes the shot. It's a really good save. It reminded me a bit of the FA Cup final last season, where Man City scored within what, 30 seconds or something. And that shot from Gundogan. So he is a player that City have missed. Gundogan, it's got to be said. They've missed his incisive play and how he does that. Rodri with the header, it's gone wide, and Vicario's got that. But yeah, the way that he plays in that kind of midfield 8 position is so good. And I think with Rodri being missing, I think Gundogan would have done a pretty good job in Rodri's position when he's there, but he's not going to. It's interesting to note Rodri has been booked in this game, so he's going to miss the game against Villa. Not necessarily surprising though, because he does tend to get a lot of bookings in the role that he plays. That was City are all over them with this press, man. That was Bernardo Silva and Alvarez. And here's Hoyland. Not Hoyland. Hoyland plays for Man United. Højbjerg. That's the one I was looking for. Ah, that's going to be a foul. Yeah, Rodri's definitely fouling there. He's got to be careful, Rodri. He is on a booking. That was a silly foul to give away there. The Spurs were in no man's land, but the Spurs have just continued to play it out as if nothing's changed. They have done that pretty good, though, to be fair. But Celso, that's dodgy. He's giving the ball away again inside their own third. Here's Foden. Foden tries to flick it through, but not quite there. I tell you what, Spurs are living life dangerously here because they're allowing, by trying to play out from the back, they're allowing City to play the game in their own third of the pitch, which I think to be honest, is just foolish. Is stupid from Spurs. I don't know. I say that I don't know what the answer is to how they get around that problem. Maybe just play longer earlier, possibly. But this is why it's so difficult to play against City, because if you do that, they've got brilliant defenders who can put you under massive pressure in their half of the pitch. So yeah, it is always tricky. And if anyone needed a reminder of how difficult it is to play at the Etihad, today is a really good reminder. And just shows as well that the value of the result that Liverpool got at the Etihad earlier this season. Like last weekend, Liverpool getting a point, massive for them. I'm not sure they deserved it. I think City should have won that game, but there you go. His free kick's headed out by Spurs. Now back to Bernardo Silva, chips it in, but that's straight into Vicario's hands. And again, Spurs are going to try and play out from the back. It's almost worth just like commentating on Spurs playing out from the back because it's just as dramatic as the rest of the game. Because they have the option to go forward, but Højbjerg decides to go back, and now the team's under pressure. But Højbjerg has got a bit of space, and now he's played the ball into Son, plays it out to Kulusevski. Could play it back into Son, but he'd probably be offside. Kulusevski back to Kulusevski again. It's funny watching this game because Kulusevski looks like the tallest player in that part of the pitch for Spurs, but he's a winger. Very strange. Højbjerg, but again, they're just going to end up at the back. And has he won that? He has. Haaland. Haaland's got the ball. He's gone past two players there, and that was an interesting challenge. Højbjerg. I wonder how long it'll be before he gets a yellow card. Because he's not the most compromising of defenders. Is Højbjerg. When he puts a challenge in, you know about it. Grealish is coming on. It looks like for City. I don't know why. I don't know. I think in games like this, I'm always surprised when Doku comes off because like his threat and pace in behind is just so threatening. And if Spurs want to play this high line, they've got to be so careful. They've played it wide to Doku. Here we go. Doku against Kulusevski. They do have two men on him that time. And that Son almost cut that pass out, but he does get it through. Here's Foden. Foden plays it out to Rodri. And he's just nicks it around the corner, back to Foden again on the right-hand side. He's got a chance to cross this if he wants to. And he does. It's well-headed by Basuma, and it's played in, but Haaland's offside, so he's never going to get that. And it might be a head injury, this. Referee has stopped the play for a head injury. And Emerson Royale's just feeding his head, but I think he's okay. He's up and jogging, so he should be fine. The game has stopped, so I think Pep's going to try and get Grealish on. Grealish on for Doku. If I were Doku, I'd be really disappointed. It's only been 5 minutes. Unless there's a problem with Doku. It does look like, he's motioning to his knee, so he might have a little problem. Yeah, he might have a little problem. That's probably why Grealish has come on here, because I think you don't take Doku off 5 minutes into the second half um, without a very, very good reason. And it won't be tactical, because he was so threatening for City in that first half. And every time that he got the ball isolated against the fullback, he was getting in there. Here's Foden. He's taking him out there. It's not a free kick, though. Okay. Might have just fallen over. There goes Bissouma. And so Spurs just trying to play out from the back again, but they don't have the numbers back, and this could be dangerous here because they're trying to play out from the back, and oh dear. Right, now where's the ball? There's no one there, and Grealish has got that. But they're not. They don't have the numbers at the back to be able to play out from the back like this. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players in shot right now, all inside their own third. But there's not that many players around the ball. That was nice. Okay, right. Son's come short to get the ball, which is what's helped this attack here. Now here's a chance. And Brennan Johnson with the... Was that Brennan Johnson? Yeah, it was with a low shot, but Edison takes it. That might be the first shot on target that's actually not resulted in a goal as well. But yeah, City still at it. They're looking pretty good, to be fair. Very, I've got to say, it's properly distracting sometimes. Some of the advertising hoardings, some of the stuff. I don't know how players play sometimes. Edison under a bit of pressure there, but just about gets it. Haaland controls it well and plays it back to Rodri, who switches the play. Now we're on the left-hand side, and Grealish has got all the space in the world. He's got all the space in the world. That's a nice ball. Haaland's just a bit too high for him. He's unlucky, and that actually might be a corner. It is. Well played there. But Grealish had so much space. I don't know why. Why do Spurs defend like this? Well, they just give the wingers so much space. Here's a ball into the box from the corner, and it is in the end cleared. Grealish should get that. He's been fouled there. Kulusevski, that was cynical. That was. It should be a yellow card. Grealish could, looking at it from this point of view, I know it's probably an injury that's forced this change, but I do think Grealish coming on always helps City control games. And that's the difference, I think, between him and Doku. Doku's the kind of destroyer, the kind of player that you bring on to go and just wreck teams. And Grealish is the kind of player who you want to bring on who's going to control games and then be able to pick a good pass where he can. And I mean, he did the same at the Emirates against Arsenal last season and did very, very well. But I think that was a moment there where he stopped and he could just put the ball in the box. Not the kind of thing that Doku can really do. I mean, he's much more direct and his passes will be a bit more kind of driven. Here's the free kick. Bernardo Silva playing it in. Haaland's not going to get to that. Oh, that's a mistake. And Spurs could be in here. Kulusevski is not going to get that. Oh, the Grealish hasn't got it though. Here's Son. Got a lot of players in front of him. Son back to Brennan Johnson, takes the shot, but that's gone straight to the goalkeeper. That's shocking. Again, Johnson's been a bit disappointing. And that's a nice ball. And Foden could be in behind here, but he's still going. It's Foden. Still going. That's well defended, though. Just falls over. I don't know what Foden's plan was there, because I don't think he was ever going to physically keep the ball. So he just had to try and win a free kick or play it away from the defender. Didn't in the end. Spurs looking a little bit more composed, I'd like to say, at this point. Not like City have had loads of chances. They are struggling to play the ball out from the back, though. Wait, that hasn't necessarily changed. Not really getting the... although it does look like they've got a bit of an overload here in the midfield. It's like central 3 against City's 2, and that's offside against Kulusevski. That's shocking. What's he done that for? Oh, dear. Dear, 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 dear. It's going to be a free kick to City. The doggy again having a go at the referee. I'm trying not to get sent off a doggy. What are they talking about here? So it's Kyle Walker and his son just having a bit of a hug. Not really sure what exactly has gone on here. Well, they've Akanji and Lascelles, so we're just having a bit of a ding dong. Who's that we're looking at? Tom Brady. Cool, just who we want to see. Different kind of football. Different kind of football, but it's City back on the ball here after all that. I think if, again, it goes against what Postecoglou believes in, clearly, but I think they need to be trying to play a more of a spoiling game here and just try and get like his Bernardo Silva tricking his way inside, but he just loses the ball there, and Basuma could set them off on the counter. Brennan Johnson just plays it back, though. There's no momentum there at all. And that's going to be another one. But that was nice. Good pass picked out there by Ben Davies. And now here's Brennan Johnson again. Into Son. Can he beat his man here? Or he could play in Johnson. It's a terrible ball. It's a terrible ball. That was a really good chance, that. As an Arsenal fan as well, I'm kind of torn because obviously I hate Spurs, but we're not really competing with Spurs for the title, to be fair. So, I mean, I would expect City to win this game, but if City were to draw, it does make things interesting in the title race and generally in the league as well. Like, the more points City drop, I think the more interesting a title race becomes, which is what we were saying last season. But I think even last season, because it was Arsenal's first real attempt at a title race for years, I think everyone were expecting Arsenal to eventually drop off and really struggle. Whereas this year, I don't expect that to happen. I think towards the end of the season, I think Arsenal are going to probably accelerate and get better. We're already seeing signs of that at the moment where things are starting to click in certain parts of the team. Here are Spurs, and they've won that as a free kick against Lo Celso. Not sure what that was about. Here's the thing as well. So I was watching Match Today, and the Sheffield United Burnley game was a Burnley Sheffield United, and was a Sheffield United player who got sent off for jumping and leading with his arm twice, and got booked both times. Really, she's almost got through there. Oh. Now, I don't really. Obviously, I'm not advocating people elbowing other people in the game, but what I saw wasn't really elbows. Yeah, Grealish is about to get booked for kicking the ball away here. Yeah. He's so stupid, though. Why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Grealish is like, why are you booking me? But you kicked the ball away, mate. And now he's going to miss the game against Villa as well. That's the second player that's missed. How does Grealish get booked? He just gets too fiery, I suppose. But yeah, it's like not in favour of people elbowing people while they're going for aerial challenges, but you've got to use your arms to get up into the air. And that's kind of what McBurney was doing a lot of the time. And for some reason, the referee gives the booking for the first one, which I don't think is a booking. I think it's a foul. I don't think it's a booking. But if you book him for the first one, I don't think you're booking for the second, because you usually referees are given a bit more of a leeway. Referees give a bit more leeway to players who have done that, the first time, and like they do it again, they'll warn them and say, right, don't do that again, or you're definitely getting sent off. But they didn't. He just sent him off for the second bookable. I don't think. The consensus of opinion has been that he deserved to get sent off, but I don't. I mean, you're going in, and yes, you're using your arm like that, but I think if anything, it's just clumsy. It's not. I don't think it's deliberate. So yeah, I'd understand that. I'd understand the decision that he made there. But that Spurs could. I don't know. There was an opportunity there to try and get in behind City's defence there, but they didn't quite get it. But it is well played. It's offside. It's offside. Not going to play on. And I don't know why they play on here because it's clearly offside. Get this right. I get so wound up when I see this because this is a stupid rule. The run, it's clearly offside. Oh, actually, to be fair, it might not have been. I still think, regardless of that, you just put the flag up because the injuries could happen. Injuries could happen with that, but also it goes back to the whole we don't need to make a decision because VAR exists and we can rectify any rubbish decisions that we make. That's just cowardice. You've got to gone are the days when referees are being brave and making decisions. They're not brave anymore. They just rely on a computer to do it for them. Here's Bernardo Silva, kind of weaving inside and outside. Yeah, so I get really annoyed when I see that, and thankfully in this game we haven't really seen it a lot because the football's been pretty good, and there's not been that many offside calls having to be made. But and sometimes, like we did see earlier on, actually, I think a couple of times where players have just been called, they've been called offside straight away, whereas that time the referee didn't put his flag up. He was running in behind, and I was like, "Oh, he's got to be offside. Brennan Johnson, he's got to be offside." And it turns out he was. So it's, that's why that's why people employ. That's why the Premier League employ the so-called best referees, is so they can make decisions like that. And it's not difficult, really, to tell in most cases whether a player is offside or not. Oh, here's a chance here for City. They've got players, they've got numbers in kind of close to the box. That's not a good ball, though. That's gone straight out of play. City aren't quite on it, you know. They've not quite shown the same level in the second half as they did in the first. I think Guardiola realises that. He's a bit concerned. And Spurs are having a bit more comfortable possession inside their own half, which is not something. Oh, saying that, Vicario is being put under pressure here. But they're not. Oh, careful. 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 Oh, my days. it's, just so, it's just so risky. It works. If they get out here, it works. But it's so risky. Okay, right. It's gone out for a City throw. That could have been way worse for Spurs. Because Vicario has the ball and they think he's got like 3 City players around him. He ends up playing it to the centre back. But no, he doesn't. He plays it to the midfielder. It's a really difficult pass to take. And this is the thing. I think if you're playing with like the world's best players, I think Postecoglou's method and how he plays would absolutely work. But this is Spurs. They don't have the best players. They're far from it. They're not. They're definitely not the best players at all in the league. So, like, at what point do you decide, right, this is causing us too many problems? We need to play a different way. I suppose the problem is, do they have another way of playing that can suit their players? And I would say yes. Defensive, hit on the counter. Don't try and don't try and play out from the back because it's just not going to. And I don't think you can necessarily count what happened with Spurs' goal as playing out from the back because it wasn't. It was like one pass in behind. That's all it was. It wasn't. It was quite direct. Haaland's gonna get that. Was lovely from Haaland. Lovely flick. Spurs get it back though, and they just want to try and take advantage of the transitions. But what they're trying to do is create the transitions by keeping the ball inside their own box, and that is very, very risky. When they could just give City the ball, allow them to attack you, and they will create this transition for you, as what happened with the Spurs goal. There's Kulusevski trying to play it in the box, but it's gone back to. Is that Emerson Royale? It is, but City again. Again, that's gone out for a goal kick. And the thing is, I think now Spurs. Has that gone out for a corner? It has. What? Okay. I just don't think that when it was 1-1, at least when it was 1-1, they should have decided to just try and be a bit more defensive. But now they're 2-1 down. The game state is not favouring Spurs at all, and they end up kind of forcing to have to create the transition themselves. City have no need to create the transition themselves. They can just keep the ball, and they are good enough. They can do that. But if it was 1-0 to Spurs, they would have to create the transition because they'd have to commit more players forward. So, or I should probably correct that. So they should have the they should be able to create the potential transition, not the actual transition, because it obviously doesn't happen every time. But they should be able to create the potential transition. For what it's worth, for Spurs and for City, they're both better than United and Chelsea. I think, even though Chelsea beat them, I think they're both better. I think it's the way that Chelsea play. I don't understand how. Although Nkunku coming in might change things, possibly. I'm not sure. That's the ball in behind, but Walker, was that a Kanji? That is Walker. We'll get that. Son trying to chase him down, but I think for the first time we're starting to see Spurs players looking a little bit leggy, although they've given the ball away here. And here's Spurs and Kulusevski with a shot. It's in! Not Kulusevski. Who was that? Lo Celso. It's 2-2. Oh, what a great shot that was. That was brilliant. Fantastic finish from Lo Celso. And City have been absolutely carved open there. I think that came from a misplaced pass from City. And they've just allowed Spurs in the last 20 minutes or so. Spurs have been more and more comfortable. It's a great header forward, to be fair. And Spurs have... I was talking about transitions earlier. They didn't need to create the transition because City kind of created it for them by playing so expansively. It's a great shot from Lo Celso. It's got to be said. Well, actually, you know what? No, it's not. It's okay, but Edison should do better. Edison should save that. It just comes off his fingertips. If he kind of pushes out a bit further, he saves that. It's shocking goalkeeping. Well, I don't know how City are in this position. They shouldn't be. They should be winning this game. As we said in the first half, the chances they had. Second half, they've been a bit blunted. I don't know. Like, ever since for about like, what has it been? 60, maybe 55 minutes. So a few minutes after Grealish came on, all of a sudden City they're struggling, and now Spurs are in again here. Kulusevski plays it into Højbjerg. He's got a chance here. That's cleared by Rodri, giving it straight to Kulusevski. What's happened here? That corner? Okay, right. Did go out of play. There was a chance that, though. Goodness me. Spurs are being very adventurous with this. All power to them. Fine. And I just don't know how... This second half, they've actually managed it quite well, albeit being rather fortunate. I think it's more that City's level has just dropped. It's just dropped. And Spurs have to take advantage. The Celso... Oh, is that with the ball in? Goodness me. The Celso with the shots! Oh! That's just gone over the bar off the deflection. I think, was that Grealish? Grealish is the first person challenging it. It comes off of his heel in the end and goes wide. That was going in, I think. Probably would have been an easy save for the goalkeeper, but wow. I don't know how this game has changed from 2-1 and City looking comfortable to now 2-2 and Spurs looking like they could absolutely it could ruin City here. What was that? Thank you very much for the follow. I missed the name there. Oh, is he? Oh, so it's a shot from someone outside the box for Spurs, and then it deflects off another player, and it comes off Brennan Johnson and goes out of play for a goal kick. He's very unlucky because if he controls that, it flicks onto his chest. And it's very unlucky. Who was that? Who we got the follow from? any Valverde, thank you very much for the follow. Really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy watching the football with us on Total Football Live. And it's 2-2. Haaland, please don't take your hairband off. I've got nightmares about you having your hairband off. And Haaland is just kind of, I think he's just elbowed someone in the face. He should be booked for that. Did not see the game yesterday. I was just talking about how McBurney shouldn't have been sent off yesterday for 2 fouls. But kind of cheeky on my part. Okay, so Rico Lewis is coming on for Guardiola. No, for Foden. What? Why? Where's he going to play? They're putting Bernardo Silva at right wing. What are they doing? Oh wow, this is definitely a change of shape. I'd be really surprised. I just don't know, because they don't have now. They don't have anyone apart from potentially Bernardo Silva who could play on that right. Okay, guess who's playing out right wing? Bernardo Silva. Cool. That makes more sense. Bernardo Silva playing at right wing now, and Rico Lewis is going to play as the central cam, I suppose, alongside who else was it? Alvarez. Yeah. But yeah, City look ruffled. The last 15 minutes, Spurs have had more possession, more shots, more touches in the opposition box. They've just looked better. And I've said that City's level has just dropped. Has absolutely dropped. And while it was kind of fun watching Spurs try to play out from the back, and I think that's a foul, and Pedro Porro's just been booked as well. It was fun watching Spurs play out from the back in the first half. In the second half, they've actually been more comfortable. It looks like the manager's almost said to them, "Listen, they're not that good. You can play through them," and they've come out and they've done that. Albeit, I don't think the goal, to be fair, just comes from it's just like 50-50s all over the pitch, and it's ended up resulting in Spurs having the ball in an attacking position, which led to the shot from Lo Celso, which went in. So I don't think you can necessarily say that he's vindicated for his decision, because that would have happened regardless of the kind of style of play that you had. I think because that can happen where both teams are pushed up. If you're heading the ball from one end, it's going to end up at the other side's defense very quickly. Especially the diving header that he did just then. Rico Lewis plays it in, and Rodri into Lewis. He could play it back here. Rodri, oh my days, what a miss. What a miss. I'll tell you what, City have missed some sitters today. They have absolutely missed some sitters today. Rico Lewis cleverly plays it back, but unfortunately it was Rodri. And if he was able to find a way to get it back to Haaland, I think that's a goal. But he didn't quite do that, and Spurs, again, trying to play out from the back. Here we go. City a bit more aggressive in their press here. And Grealish has won it and lost it again. And what it's doing is kind of creating these 50-50s all over the pitch, which if Spurs are, I think this is part of their strategy. If they're aggressive enough in those 50-50s, that in theory they should get the ball further up the pitch and create a goal scoring chance. But they've lost it here, and now it's Bernardo Silva on the right hand side up to Rico Lewis, Akanji, and out to Grealish. Back to Guardiola, who's in a central position. This is the other thing I don't really like about Guardiola. It doesn't look good enough on the ball to really be threatening in that kind of position to shoot. Whether you'd want that from your defender, I'm not sure. But Bernardo Silva plays that ball and it's gone out for a throw. He looks quite limited on the ball as Guardiola. Now I understand why he's there, because he offers a bit more defensive cover. But if you compare him to someone like Tomiyasu, at Arsenal as Zinchenko is definitely not as good on the ball as Zinchenko, but then Zinchenko can't defend as well. But then you've got here's Guardiola is overlapping on that side, and he's going to offer the option here. But again, if he plays the ball, he's not going to cross the ball there. He's never going to do that because he's not that good at that. So that you kind of, from an attacking point of view, I think you're negating a really good option there. Here's Bernardo Silva. He's cleared out again. Another corner for City, and someone's gone down for Spurs there. Not sure who that was. Was that Brennan Johnson? I know Højbjerg. Just holding his foot. And here's Bernardo Silva out to Rico Lewis. And it's oh dear, was that Guardiola? Like I said, Guardiola can't really shoot. I'm not really sure he can cross either. The skip's coming on for Spurs now. For who's another number 18? Not even sure. Is that Basuma? Nope, it's Lo Celso. That's fair enough. Kind of like for like. Lo Celso's goal though. That's a really, really good goal. It's a good finish. It kind of does as much. The only way you can make that finish any better is if it pushes it further. If he places it further into the corner, and then it's definitely not savable by the goalkeeper. But he does give the goalie the chance of saving it, and he doesn't save it. So there you go. It's 2-2 though. This is from an Arsenal point of view. I'm going to keep referencing this because I don't have like an Arsenal only Twitch or YouTube channel. It's just watch football really. But from an Arsenal fan's point of view, as I am an Arsenal fan, this is a good result. If you're watching City drop points and Spurs drop points in the same weekend, it can't be that bad. It's pretty good, especially if you're competing with City for the title. Puts you 3 points clear of City. That's a foul. Højbjerg has got to be careful here. He's on a booking and he's just taken out Grealish. The last thing that Spurs can afford to do here is get another red card because not to mention for this game, obviously going down to 10 men in this game would be not quite suicide, but it'd make it very difficult to play the way they do. But also they miss that player for the next game. And they're already missing quite a few players. Their bench looks a bit better today than it did last week. Still not amazing. It's a ball into the box for City, but Akanji will collect it on the outside. I'd almost think Akanji's a better kind of player with the ball. Is Rico Lewis. He's just trying to kind of bundle his way through, and in the end it's a free kick to Spurs. Not quite sure what Rico Lewis did there to give away that free kick. What happened here? Didn't really see it. Bernardo Silva just about keeps it. Bernardo Silva just runs into Højbjerg. Oh, okay. So Bernardo Silva fouls the defender. Yeah. That's fair enough. And it's still 2-2. Careful here. Emerson Royal just about gets it clear. And you've got to say, I think the bravery. Oh dear, they've just given it away though. Here's Akanji. Haaland. There's a pullback on. Grealish. 3-2, sorry. 3-2. Grealish scores against the North London club again. Oh dear, Spurs. And that was completely made from their own, playing out from the back. Again. You're trying to create the overload. You're trying to create the transition. But then if you can't keep the ball in your own defensive third, what's the point? Just play it forward. Be aggressive. And they're brave here. Basuma just gives the ball away. It's just shocking from Basuma. Gives it to Haaland. Haaland into Grealish. 3-2. What a big goal that is for City. But it's just shocking defending from Spurs. It's really, really bad. And it's only created from their own mistake as well. If you take away Spurs' mistakes, I think they probably win this game. Amazing enough as it is, if Spurs don't make those mistakes, City definitely don't win this game. They maybe draw it, but they definitely don't win it. And it's, oh man, I was just saying how a 2-2 draw would probably be a good result for Arsenal. Obviously 3-2. It is like two teams Arsenal want to finish above regardless, but it's a big goal for City, that is. And I don't think City have necessarily played well in the second half, but I think Spurs, ever since Spurs went back to 2-2, I think City have slowly started to crank up the pressure in the last 10 minutes or so, and that has made a difference. Definitely. Now to see whether Spurs can shock City again and score again. You can tell the ground is bouncing because the cameras are shaking. Even though I've got this on mute, I can't actually hear it. That's ball out to Gvardiol, but he's given that away. But in the end, again, it just like, oh dear, he's given it away though. Here's Kulusevski on the right hand side. Could be in behind. Kulusevski has just kept that though. Back to Skip. And now Basuma. Basuma playing into Skip. Now that was dodgy. What were you doing there, Gvardiol? That was a terrible, terrible challenge. He gets the ball. So I think it's Basuma flicks it towards Kulusevski. Oh no, it's a Skip. Oh dear, he catches him as well. It's a terrible challenge. He flicks it to Skip. Skip controls it with his foot, with the inside of his foot, and Gvardiol narrowly, to be fair, narrowly misses out on the ball. Very, very narrow. It is a yellow card. It's definitely not a red card, but it's not a good challenge. It's one of those that's like a yellow and a half. There was talk about sin bins before, and I've got to say that would have been a sin bin. I think that's worthy of a sin bin challenge. Lo Celso has a chance from this free kick to maybe make it. Well, not Lo Celso, sorry. Who was that? Pedro Porro. That was a terrible ball in. Shocking. Just going to plug this charger in. Be working. Yeah. Yeah. I think Spurs, it's just so frustrating as an Arsenal fan watching this Spurs performance against City because they had the point in their hands. They had the point in their hands just to hold out for 10 minutes. Edison playing the ball out. He is under pressure. So is Gvardiol. And Gvardiol has gone down. Takes a risk there by holding the ball with his hands at the end of that, but it is a free kick. And I think City, it's difficult. And obviously, if you want the kind of the comparative results between Arsenal and City, which is the kind of thing that I was talking a lot about last season when you look at an Arsenal team trying to fight for the league, you've got to get better comparative results, assuming that you kind of are level with them and you're head to head. You want better comparative results than the opposition, obviously, against the other teams. Arsenal played Spurs at home and they drew. City are playing Spurs at home and they're winning. So that is where you've being, if you're being harsh, you'd probably say as good as Arsenal have been this season, we probably need they need to be winning games like Spurs at home, albeit Spurs are good. Here's Kulusevski with the ball in the box. It's again headed out of play. Corner to Spurs. Kulusevski plays it quickly. And that's going to be another corner to Spurs, I think. Nope, Rico Lewis isn't happy, but it is another corner. Oh no, it was offside. It was offside. Kulusevski couldn't quite get in there. I think they are quite. The other thing they could be labelled with quite a lot, to be fair, and that wasn't. Oh no, that was a goal kick. Actually, to be fair, it was a goal kick. The other thing that they could be labelled with is just being a bit emotional. I think it is a young team, but and here's the difference. Spurs are bringing on Richarlison, presumably for Brennan Johnson. Oh no, Brennan Johnson I think has already gone off. Maybe for Kulusevski. Can't be bringing Son off, surely. Surely you don't bring Son off. Gvardiol's come off for Kovacic and Ake. Okay, Gvardiol off for Ake. and Alvarez off for Kovacic. And that is the difference in the squads, even though in City have had a couple of injuries, but they're not amazingly wide or diverse. Okay, so Basuma's coming off and he's the one who probably cost Spurs that third goal. And I think it is playing out from the back. It reminds me a lot of, and this isn't, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a compliment to Spurs, but this reminds me an awful lot of early days Arteta, where we're trying to play the ball out from the back, but we just don't have the players. We ended up giving the ball away in silly positions, which then cost us goals in really big games. And that's kind of what's happened today for Spurs. Rico Lewis still going. Oh, that's a terrible ball, though, by Bernardo Silva. I think I don't know what he's saying there, because it's just a terrible ball by him. The difference between the squads. Spurs have been able to make a few changes, like Skip, Højbjerg, Richarlison. But I read those subs out earlier. I was like, well, once you get past those three, that's it. There really isn't anyone else, because the rest of them are all youth players, and you can't be bringing them on in a game like this. They might be on your bench, but you've got like no intention of bringing them on. Whereas I don't think, if you look at the City bench, they're not. It's full of quality, absolutely full of quality. As is Arsenal's, to be fair. Like Arsenal's bench this season, their benches have been very, very good, and we've had a few injuries as well. To be fair, his that's not a good ball, that, by Bernardo Silva. Spurs just about keep it. They do have numbers forward, Spurs, but they've got to try and get it to them and not give the ball away. This is where Basuma can kind of progress the ball forward against the press, but he is prone to giving the ball away sometimes, as we saw for that third City goal. Is Kulusevski on the right hand side into him, and Kulusevski does control it against Ake. That's not a foul. No, ref plays on. And City aren't really looking to play, and that's kind of the difference here between the two teams. Spurs absolutely want to create transitions. City don't really care. That they'll take transitions if they're offered them, but I don't really think they mind, because, as I say, they're winning, which helps. So the game state means they could just keep the ball and run time down, and that's enough for them. But I've got to say, as much as it was interesting watching the Chelsea Spurs game, because Spurs got a lot of credit for their approach and how they played the game. They were very aggressive. Yes, they lost 4-1, and that's the ball into the box. Oh, it's 4-3. It's 3-3. Is it 3-3? It's 3-3. I don't even know. I don't know what's going on. They're celebrating, so I'm assuming it's 3-3. Kulusevski has dived in and made it 3-3 just as I was talking about City going on and winning this game. Oh, my days. So let's just talk about this goal, because Spurs have the option here. It's played in behind. If it goes to the wide man, is onside. It does. It's onside. Is it Son who gets the ball? I'm not even sure. But it's a ball in, and it's an amazing header from Kulusevski. Far post. Brennan Johnson clips it far post. Kulusevski goes in. It kind of goes in off of his shoulder and his head. But Ake's just beaten in the air. Tell you what, one criticism that people have labelled against Ake is he's not strong in the air. And that was, if you play FC24, it's a classic FC24 goal, that. Classic. Far post, tall man, header in the box. Kulusevski has equalised and potentially won a point for Spurs. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Gotta say, I was not expecting that. City have been pretty dominant in this game, but if Spurs can get a point against Arsenal and a point against, and here's a chance now for Spurs. No, they're not going to get this one though. Ake will get it out. If they can get a point against Arsenal and a point against City away from home, that is not bad. any team getting points away from home against those teams, doing very, very well. That's a terrible challenge on Grealish. That'll be a free kick. I know I said before as well that Spurs. I'll finish off my point I was saying earlier. I think it's still relevant, even though they are now drawing. Spurs got a lot of praise for their 4-1 defeat away at home against Chelsea because of the way they played, even though they were down to 9 men. That game, they did not deserve praise. They put themselves in a terrible position and they deserved to lose. This game, however, that's a lovely ball. Oh, Ake couldn't quite keep it in. It's out of play for a goal kick. That was really close. That was a really nice ball in. Akanji was definitely onside. There's a chance that Ake could have been offside. Goes wide, and Akanji just can't quite catch up with it. Not Akanji, sorry. Ake. Ake didn't keep it in. They got a lot of praise for that. This game, they deserve all the praise they get because I think they've taken advantage of City's lack of finishing power. I don't know, which is a weird thing to say when they've got Haaland in their team, but their lack of ruthlessness has cost City in this game. Because if they put away the chances in the first half they had, this game is not competitive. It's 4-1 or something at half time, and I think Spurs don't have the opportunity to go back in at half time, reorganize, and then come out in the second half and play the way they did. I also think losing Doku has definitely hampered City somewhat because I think they were more threatening with Doku on the pitch. Here's a chance here for Son now. Son plays it wide to Kulusevski. Surely they can't win it. It's gone back to... Oh, the pass back was awful. Absolutely awful. Grealish... Oh, there's Haaland. They want to play on here. Grealish could be in on goal. Grealish on one. No, he's not. What's happened there? I don't know what's happened there. The referee has blown for the foul against Haaland when Grealish is in on goal. I thought the referee had played on. I thought the referee had... That is an absolute shambles. That is an absolute shambles. The Premier League is one of these leagues where you watch and you expect this kind of end-to-end football. You expect it. Advantages are played to give the opposition or the team who gets the foul the advantage. Why does he plays the advantage there, and then what happens? I don't understand what's happened there. He literally has his hand out as if to say advantage. Plays the ball in behind for Grealish. There's no offside there. Haaland's furious. I actually agree with him. Like, there's no way that. Yeah. I mean, you don't abuse the referee, but like, he is furious, and I agree with his sentiments. If you're playing advantage, you can't then retract the advantage when the player is in on goal. You can't retract the advantage because it could be game changing. You just let it play. Oh my days. And again, people will say, "Oh, you're an Arsenal fan. You want Spurs to lose." I don't really care, to be fair. Both of these teams, if they could both lose, I would have them both lose. But they are, and here's a change I don't think they wanted to make. Johnson coming off for Donley, who is a youth player, who's coming on to do what exactly? I'm not sure. To fill a place in the team, and it looks like City are going to try and play a ball in behind. Okay, they're not. They're going to try and play a ball in the box in behind the high Spurs defence. Well cleared by Spurs. And this is where I think, as an Arsenal fan, I'm quite happy to see City drop points here because it kind of vindicates our point against Spurs a little bit. Although I do think we probably should have won that game anyway. City are not handling this well. There is a corner to City. Here's a chance. Back to Rico Lewis. It's gone. Well, that's not a good challenge. Is that a skip sliding challenge? And there's going to be a lot of pressure put on these City players here. Richarlison plays it back. Haaland flicks it on. And that's in the end just about clear by a doggy. It's back to Rodri. It's a ball to the far post. This is a great shot. Oh, he's just gone over. And the City players are shouting for a penalty. There is a Spurs player on the floor, but everyone else was up. I don't know what's going on here, but it looks like it's going to be just a goal kick to City. I think there is a hand on Akanji's back from Skip, but I don't think it's stopping him from going anywhere. He's not reaching the ball. There's no way he's reaching that ball there. No chance. I mean, if they give a penalty for that, they are looking at it. But he decides there's a point where he's looking back and he's like, no, I've got to go down here because I can't get the ball. So you don't give a penalty for that. And rightly so, they haven't. Well, that was dramatic. We've had 7 minutes of injury time. We're still going. This is quite fun. Is the referee going to blow? No, it's still not blowing yet. And this has become way more competitive than it should have been. Let's just call it for what it is. They should have had this game sewn up at half time. The amount of chances they had, and they're now still drawing, and they're chasing a winner here. Ake plays it to Grealish on the left hand side. City still probing. Grealish with the ball to the far post, not going to get it. Richarlison tries to run after the ball, and the referee has blown the final whistle, and it's 3-3 between City and Spurs. What a game! Again, Spurs just offer up brilliant games every time they play against the big teams. And yes, sometimes it goes wrong for them, but and Haaland isn't happy, and we'll talk about that in a second. But just give Spurs the credit that they deserve, because they have taken advantage of City not playing well in the second half. They have not been at it tonight in the second half. First half, they were really good. Probably should have been, yeah. And tell you what, Haaland's got to be careful here because he could be sent off. The amount of stuff that he's throwing at, not literally, but it's like he's swearing and abusing I don't know who it was, but Guardiola's not happy. But I think it's more he's not happy at the way people are interacting with each other. I don't think he's particularly happy at that. And I don't. Yeah, I want to hear, and this is where this audio from referees is going to be really helpful, because I want to hear why they made that decision to. And Guardiola's not even going to really bother with the referees. I think he's just walking off. He's not really that bothered. But I would love to hear what the decision making was there, because it looked like from the outside that the referee had given an advantage to City for the foul on Haaland. Then Grealish is suddenly in on goal, and the next thing we know, the ball's being played. The game's being pulled back for a free kick to City, which I don't. Unless there's something else that I'm not aware of that happened on the pitch that I've not heard, because I'm not listening to the game, I'm just watching it. I think City can't use that as an excuse for not winning this game. They should have been 3-4, 5-1 up by half time. The fact that they weren't let Spurs back in. They went back in at half time, came out in the second half, definitely played better, and City just didn't keep the same level. And I think they were punished for mistakes. And the two Spurs goals came from just shocking. Well, definitely the first one was just not good defending from City, because they were so open. When the ball goes forward for City and then headed back by Spurs, the position that City are in is crazy, because they've got like 4 defenders, but they're spread out so far, as if they're not expecting to lose the ball there. But then when they do lose the ball, Lo Celso's got a free run on the defence and just has to cut in on his left and score. Easy. And then the second goal, like the last goal, I'll admit is a bit more. I don't think you can necessarily blame City for that, but it's their lack of care and attention on the ball, I think, that cost them that point, the 2 points in the end, after getting 3-2 up. I need to see that last goal again, to be fair, because I'm not absolutely sure what preceded it. But wow, like it's yeah. I'm not I'm kind of stunned. I was talking about this game before the game and thinking, well, this has got to be a City win, right? Surely Spurs have been absolutely decimated, but they've played pretty well. And they rode their luck in the first half, but the second half done really well. So what does that do to the table then? It is interesting now, because you'll see after that point, the point for Spurs doesn't really do a great deal because they just kind of stay where they were. They're now a point clear of Newcastle, but they are, what are they on? 27. Arsenal on 31 points. Arsenal are now 2 points clear at the top of the table, and even more importantly, 3 points clear of City, which I think makes a really, really big difference for this team. Makes a massive, massive difference. Um, I don't think I would have. Yeah, I would not have seen that coming at all. Um, and Liverpool, of course, are now second after that last minute win. Imagine if Liverpool had dropped points at home to who was it they're playing? Fulham. If they'd have managed to drop points at home to Fulham, we'd now be in a position where Arsenal were top by 3 points over City and 4 points by Liverpool, or maybe even 5 points by Liverpool. What is going on in this league? I think it's great for Arsenal. And we talked about the respective results as well, the relative results between the two teams, between Arsenal and City. Arsenal at home against Spurs, drew. City at home against Spurs, drew. So from that point of view, Arsenal are safe. They're not punished for dropping points at home to City. Depends on what happens. I think Liverpool haven't played at home against Spurs yet. They played away from home against Spurs and I think lost. They shouldn't have lost, but they did lose. So that's not really a big deal. But yeah, what a point for Spurs and a very disappointing end. I think a very disappointing end to the game for Man City. They're only 3 points clear of Spurs as well. I think this year is going to be a bit more different. Well, I've got to be careful what I say here because it needs to be clipped for stuff like this. But I would say this team, this season even, unless you're absolutely consistent in your wins, then you could end up getting dragged into a race for the top four because there are that many teams up there now. If you look at the table, who are capable of winning quite a lot of games. Arsenal, Liverpool, City, we know about. Villa and Spurs and Newcastle. And I don't really want to go any further than that because I think Man United, I think it's those top six and then everyone else. But given the points difference, what often happens at this stage of the season is a team will probably just make a big impact on the league, but then fall away later in the season. I think that's what people were expecting with Spurs. But at this point today, it's not bad, given that they lost to Wolves, they lost to Chelsea, and I think they lost the last game as well. I can't remember who it was. Villa. They lost to Villa at home as well. So the fact that they've now gone and drawn against City, unfortunately for them, it's only worth 1 point. It's not worth 3 or 5 or whatever. It's just worth the 1 point. But I think for them, in confidence-wise, it's worth way more than the 1 point. But it will come down to, I think, who could be most consistent. And Arsenal have started off very, very well. 2 points clear of Liverpool. It does mean through the week, if they can get a win against Luton, they could potentially be 5 points clear before they play their next. Before I think Liverpool and City play. I'm pretty sure because I think Liverpool and City are playing later in the day, in the week even. So that is going to be our next watch along. It's going to be the Luton against Arsenal game. Very interesting, very cool. Very cool. What am I talking about? It's it's an interesting game to watch. First time Arsenal have played away at Luton for years in the league. I think you can go back about 23 years or something like that. I think when we last played them. But they're a good team. Are Luton, and it'll be a tough test for Arsenal, but I'd expect them to come through. And then I don't think I don't know if I've actually put on the schedule. That's not the right thing to open what we're doing. I don't think I've put on the schedule which games I am doing after this. Have I? I've done this. Okay, so we're watching Spurs again on Thursday, and then after that, I think we're going to watch Liverpool next Saturday. Fun. So I hope you enjoyed what you watched today. Thanks for tuning in to Total Football Live. And thanks for everyone who's got involved, for Jollyfish for following, not for chatting, and for the follow from Any Valverde. And that will be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on Tuesday.